All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Black Spinner Music Podcast, where we rock 8 days a week. We turn up the volume up to 11. Today's episode, we are going to be doing no sophomore slumps here. Absolutely none. We are going to be talking about the top 20. We're going top 20, not top 10 with five honorable mentions. No, we're going hardcore this week. We're doing top 20 albums that were the sophomore releases by the band or artist. Joining me today is Al Horta from the Be Cool or Be Podcast Out.
Hey guys,
Hey Al, how's it going, man? It's good to see you.
good man. Good to see you too.
And also we have Joseph Staub with us from Pennsylvania. He will be sharing his knowledge and love of music as well. So we got a full show today. We're going to be doing top 20. So let's get started. Without further ado, let's just crack open this can and let's get going. We'll go Joe, Al, and then myself. And if you got them, show them. So go ahead, Joseph. Why don't you start off with? What's your number 20 sophomore album?
Alrighty, so when I'm already starting out with an album this good, that it's going to be a hard list. And my number 20 is Cheap Trick in Color. What a sophomore album. I mean, you can't go wrong with any of those 70s Cheap Trick albums, but I think this is a great one. I mean, the only thing I'd have to say about this that might be a little bit of a downer is I'm not a huge fan of the studio version of I Want You to Want Me, but the rest of this album is amazing. I mean, back cover here, I mean, so many great tracks. Hello There, Big Eyes, Down, You're All Talk, Oh Caroline, Clock Strikes 10, Southern Girls, Come On, and So Good to See You. I mean, just a fantastic sophomore album, keeping the momentum going from their first album. Just a great sophomore album.
Yeah, and if you're right, if it wasn't for that soft version of I Want You to Want Me, it would have been a lot higher. Yeah. And unfortunately, because of that track, it didn't make my list because on my list here is, I mean, I went almost song by song of what I wanted to have. Let's go ahead and.
Wait, I'm here. Hold on.
Hey Al.
Yeah, I'm back. Hold on.
I know, but your thing. But you're okay. All right, you're cool because your thing's making that noise here and there.
Oh, was it like a clicking?
Yeah, it's like that little.
You want me to come out and come back in?
Oh no! Wait, it stopped.
Nope.
Is
Okay,
it there?
Go ahead with your number 20.
Okay, I'm gonna go the hip hop route right now. I'm gonna go with Public Enemy. It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. I think that was a big album when I was in high school, and a big part of like me getting more into like hip hop. I like old school hip hop from like '84 to '94. To me, that's the golden years. And that album had a lot. I mean, even a lot of the metalheads in high school got into that album. It was almost like just such hard hip hop. It was like almost like a metal album, but in the hip hop world. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah, because it hit hard.
And Chuck D's lyrics and just the way the music and the beats were it made an impression on me. To me, it's like one of the great hip hop albums of all time. And it was their second album. It was a giant leap from their first one to the second one. Although I do like the first one as well, Yo Bum Rush's Show. But this one just took them to a whole other level. I mean, they went like supernova on this one, So yeah, I'm gonna go Public Enemy. It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back as my number 20.
Yeah, that's the one on the cover that they're in jail, right?
Yeah.
Dude, back then, him and Flavor Flav played off of each other so damn well, and Terminator X just had those beats. They invented their own sound.
Yeah,
I mean, the Bomb Squad invented their own sound. That's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to start off with an oddball one. I'm a big fan of New York's 2000s rock scene, and I'm a big fan of the Strokes. But I didn't have Strokes on this one. I went with the sophomore released by their guitar player, which I think is better than the Strokes. I'm going with with Albert Hammond Jr.'s "Como Te Ame." This is a fantastic album. His debut album was just as good, but this one is a little bit more rockin'. His debut album was a little bit more acoustic based, and it's on Red Album. So Albert Hammond Jr. As my is going to kick it off for me. This is a great album. Haven't heard in a while, and back in the early 2000s, they would either give you a MP3 or something to download. This one came with a vinyl and the CD inside as a bonus, so that was really cool. So that's what I'm going to start off with. Albert Hammond Jr. Go for it, Joe.
All righty. So another phenomenal band this low on the list, and that is Queen 2. I mean, this is one of my absolute favorite Queen albums. I mean, it's probably a top 3 Queen album for me, but just so many great early Queen tracks on here. I mean, Father to Son, White Queen, Loser in the End, Ogre Battle, March of the Black Queen, and then closing out with the absolutely classic Seven Seas of Rye. I mean, it's a powerhouse album from start to end. It feels like you're listening to a really epic album. Just you put it on and you're just in this experience. It's just such a great album to listen to front.
Yeah, that's my favorite, man. My favorite Queen album, actually.
Nice.
That's awesome. Great pick, man.
Yeah, I'm just getting into Queen because I always dismissed it for the longest time. And about 4 months ago, I was out record shopping and I found Queen 2 and Sheer Hardtack both on CD. And I absolutely love them. It's a complete departure of what I thought they were.
Those are probably two of my 3 favorite Queen albums. Yeah.
The first 3 Queen albums, they were just such a heavy rock band, dude. They were like almost metalish, dude. And you could say that, some songs were definitely metal for the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when the Night at the Opera, that's when the kind of the little bit of the show tuney, not that it's bad, but the show tuney kind of operatic stuff really started coming in. But those first 3 Queen albums are like the raw, but still well produced. Actually, I shouldn't say raw, but I mean they were well produced pretty much right off the bat. But
I would throw News of the World in there as well. News of the World really reflects with the first 3. It kind of moves away from what Night at the Opera and Day at the Races were doing a little bit, and kind of goes back to that.
It goes back to
the sound of the first 3.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. But those first 3, dude. I mean, if I pick a favorite era of Queen, that's actually my favorite. I have a friend that actually saw Queen live in 1974. They played here in New York City at the Beacon Theater, and they were opening up for
probably Mott the Hoople.
I think it was Mott the Hoople, yes. And that was like one of his very first concerts too. I mean, he's got like 13, 14 years on me. So, but he was young. I think his older brother took him, and I was like, damn, you saw Queen in like '74, dude. I was like insane. I think that was Sheer Heart Attack, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that must.
The Rainbow album that they recorded on that tour that they put out a couple years ago, one of my favorite live albums ever.
Yeah, it's killer. I wish I would have seen that.
And since I got it recently, I was going through the liner notes, and I noticed the times that on each song were not really that long, but they feel epic.
Yeah,
they feel like that they should be longer, but they're not. It's just the feel of it. You're like, damn, there's so much going on in such a short period of time. They really do take you on a ride. I was very surprised. I grabbed them because they were like $3 a piece. I said, what do I have to lose? Well, now I'm hunting for more. Yeah, definitely. So that's a great pick. That's a band I'm starting to get into when I always thought they were overrated or just not good enough, but I was wrong. I really was. All right. Go for it, Al. What's your number 19?
Okay, my number 19, I'm going with Dawkins, Tooth and Nail. Their debut, what was the debut again?
I can't remember.
Break with the Chains.
I had a brain fart right there. I should know this. But Brigantines was decent, but this one really, like, that was Doc and George Lynch, just full on George Lynch mode. And the songs are there, the production, and George just rips it up. The whole band is just great on it. And one of my favorite Sophomore albums. I played the hell out of that when I was back in the day, 84 on, all through high school. So yeah, that's gonna be my number 19 is Doc and Tooth and Nail. I mean, come on, man, the title track, and there's so many great songs on there, dude. So I wish I had the CDs for show. I don't have none of that shit here.
I am happy on my list, but I took it off.
Let me run down to Florida real quick and go get them. I'll be right back.
Right.
Nah,
Cool.
I will just wait for you. It's okay. I got it right back here.
We should get my wife in. We should get my wife in on the thing and have her hold the album. So
Just hold them up.
Oh, we can put her over here on this square over here like this. That's funny.
Oh man. But yeah.
My number 19. These guys, unfortunately, are not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm one that loves the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I find it very interesting of who goes in and who's not. But these guys definitely deserve it. The Monkees, more of the Monkees. They're, of course, their second album. But the thing with this is that it went so wrong. Mike Nesmith said it's one of the worst albums of all time. They were on tour when studio musicians made this. And in fact, the album cover is a picture of them that should have gone to the JCPenney catalog. And they plastered it on the cover. They were pissed off about that. And they wanted to record the album, but when they got here, they said, all the music is done, you just have to do the vocals. And when they were hired to do the TV show, they were told that they were going to have freedom of control over their music. And of course, Don Kirshner went back on his word. Well, after this, all sorts of shit happened. Don Kirshner was fired. The next album is Headquarters, which the Monkees took control, and it's also a killer album where Mike Nesmith writes even more. Everyone plays on that album, and they might have some session players to make the sound fuller, but they are actually playing. And I really think it's a travesty that these guys are not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because of what happened early on. How many times have we heard? Well, now in rock and roll, now that's a practice that's not shunned upon. But back in the 60s for rock music, you don't do that. You had to play everything in solid, right, and produce everything. But Peter Tork and Mike do play guitar on this. They were able to sneak some parts in themselves. These songs, if you know anything about pop rock, it's got She, Mary, Mary, I'm Not Your Stepping Stone, I'm a Believer, Sometime in the Morning. It's a great album. I love it.
Awesome. Yeah, dude, Monkees, man, I appreciate the hell out of them. They have a lot of great songs, dude.
Yeah,
and
I grew up on their greatest hits album. Great career.
Yeah,
I know, man. Good stuff.
And that
I got to
was
see them live
for almost 3 months on the Billboard chart.
Yeah,
that's
I got to see them live like 5 years ago, man, and they were awesome.
I never got to see them. I was going to see Dolenz and Nesmith, and it was right when COVID started. So they kept on pushing the date back.
Tork had died. Tork had passed away, and then Nesmith came in. They were going to tour. When I saw them, it was Dolenz and Tork touring together, but on like 2 or 3 songs they Skyped Nesmith in like on the screen.
Oh,
and
yeah?
the three of them played together, and it was really cool, man. I mean, at least to see the 3 of them, and now it's only down to 1, and that's it, But I got a chance to see, 2 of them live, but 1 over the screen live. It was cool. They Skyped them in live, man, and they played with them, and it was cool as hell, man.
That last album that they came out with was
really
good.
Yeah. And what's his name came out? The guy from Fountains of Wayne that passed away as well, and he had a hand in writing some of that album.
Yeah.
I forgot his name, but but he came out like during that concert and played with them, and you know, so it's weird. Like I saw the concert, like the two other monkeys are gone now, and like that one dude from Fountains of Wayne is gone. It's crazy, man. After COVID, man, it took out a lot of people.
Yeah.
Even though Torque passed away before COVID, but
he did.
Yeah, so.
But I was never a big. It's like I always felt that Davy Jones always ruined the flow of the album. This guy's slow, schmaltzy teen songs, but I overlook it. I skip it. Mickey and Mike were the bomb, man. Mickey and Mike were the bomb.
I'm a sucker for Daydream Believer though. So.
Oh yeah. I can't take that away. That's a badass song.
Yeah.
And I was going to say something. Also, Rivers Cuomo from Weezer also writes on that latest rock album. I mean, a lot of alternative rock guys of today were on that album.
Yeah.
Yeah, good one. Joe.
All righty. Number 18, probably probably my top 3 favorite progressive rock albums to come out after the 80s. And that is Dream Theater, Images and Words.
Damn.
Probably my favorite Dream Theater album. I mean, just front to back great songs. Pull Me Under, Another Day, Take the Time, Metropolis Part 1, Learning to Live, what else on there? Under a Glass Moon. Just so many great Dream Theater songs. This is when they really came into their own. The first album with LaBrie on vocals. I mean, the band is really complete. I love those. I love both of the Kevin Moore albums. I love this. I love Awake. I mean, just such a classic prog album. Just one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's an awesome album, man. Classic.
So that was their breakout track, right? That Pull Me Under.
Yeah.
That's what brought them to them.
That was their one hit. Their greatest hits album they called Greatest Hit plus 20 other cool songs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which is pretty much true of their career.
Yeah.
It really is. Yep. What are you going with at number 18?
I'm going with the second album by Foo Fighters, The Color and the Shape.
Nice.
I love that album a lot, man. To me, that's their peak album for me. I like the Foo Fighters' career, but some albums, for me, like the first 2 albums are my favorite. I love the first 2 albums. Then they had their albums they're good. They had good songs on them, but I don't know. I kind of dipped off on them a little bit, and it wasn't until Wasting Light that I really kind of came back again. To me that was a great album. So I'm kind of I like the Foo Fighters kind of book-ended albums, like their early stuff and their latest stuff, and the middle stuff's a little lower for me. But I mean, Color and Shape for me is at the peak. They were still kind of had that hardcore kind of roots thing, rooted in hardcore, but with a pop sensibility. I mean, and Dave was just crushing it on the album. I love the production of it, the guitar sound, everything, and so songs. I love the songs on there. So, and that's when he really had a band then, this time where he had a band. The first debut was just him alone, really, that did it. And then he kind of formed the band, and then this is more of a band that sort of great before Taylor Hawkins still, but it was a great album, my favorite. So that's Color and the Shape by Foo Fighters, my number 18.
Yeah, and that's why their first one sounded kind of prehistoric, kind of this and that. But I'll stretch my favorite one up to the third. I really love There's Nothing Left to Lose. That's my favorite, the third one.
Nothing Left to Lose is your favorite? Yeah. Okay. Well, I know a lot of people love that. One by One. And
One by One was after that one, yeah.
One, yeah. I know a lot of people love those albums. I did. I liked some of the songs. That's a whole. Yeah. There's some songs I don't dig as much, but from front to back though, Color and the Shape is my album.
Oh, yeah.
The first one was basically a demo. Really, it was kind of just. Really, it was just. I think Dave said in interviews he just kind of went in the studio and because he was. Kind of down about the whole Nirvana thing and everything.
Yeah.
It was over. He just went in and wrote a bunch of songs, and basically, I think he just passed it out to like a couple of friends, and they were like, "You should release this," and then that's how it happened. So basically, it's really kind of a glorified demo,
Mhm.
That's why it's got a rawer sound to it and all that. So
Yeah, I know that I said this before, but when I heard the news that the drummer from Nirvana was going to come out with a band, I was like, really? No one's ever going to hear about this band, because you never thought that the drummer was going to come out with his own band. And I mean,
and look at that, and they're a stadium band.
yeah, I mean, a worldwide stadium selling out, one of the biggest bands in the world for the past 10 years. It's like they knocked over Pearl Jam and took that name away from them.
Well, Pearl Jam's no slouch. I mean, they're as a live band, they'll sell out everywhere too. Though they kind of, I can kind of consider them. They kind of became like the Grateful Dead of like the grunge era, where everybody people like follow them around and shit. Well, and another big thing is because their set lists are different every night, so they you can go to 1 show, 5 shows, 10 shows, and they'll all be different. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
They're also the same way like the Grateful Dead, where their studio albums kind of stopped mattering after a point.
Yeah, and it's just about the live show. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool. It's kind of also like the Grateful Dead, where they release so many live albums from different places, and they're completely different.
They were one of the first bands that did like the whole. They recorded every show on a tour, and they would release it like these.
They were the first one that did like the instant live thing.
Yeah. And then I think all at once they released like 80 shows all at once.
Yeah.
With just like a brown paper bag cover with a.
I got a couple of them. Yeah.
There was one that I didn't go to. It was here in Houston. They played the weekend, and they released Sunday show, and I was at Saturday show.
Oh, okay.
So I still jam it, but it is different though. It is different. Yeah. My number 18, I'm going to go all the way back to the late 60s, the Summer of Love. I'm talking about Cream, Disraeli Gears. Dude, that album cover, just amazing. And this 3-piece band tore it up, man. Any way you wanted it. If you want the blues, psychedelic blues, the straight rock, folk, or that English folk kind of sound too. One of my favorite tracks on here, Tales of Brave Ulysses. Jack Bruce had one of those great voices that is just so unmistakably. And this also has Sunshine Your Love. Starts off with Eric Clapton singing Strange Brew. So Disraeli Gears by Cream.
Nice. That's a great one, man. Cream was one of those first bands I really got into as a kid, man. That's my favorite era. Favorite era of Eric Clapton. To me, he's on fire on those Cream albums, man. You know, and I love it. I remember my brother having I think Wheels of Fire on vinyl, and I used to jam it all the time as a kid. And but that just really gears.
Yeah, and also for you people out there that want to get into Cream Live 1 and Live 2 are fantastic. You see a 3-piece band just jam. It's just amazing. It's great stuff. Joseph, number 17?
Number 17. As I sit here and look at my list, I realize that this album is way too low on the list, but it's too late to change now. So as much as I hate saying it this low on the list, Sad Wings of Destiny. I mean, for all intents and purposes, the first Judas Priest album. I mean, if we're going by true releases, it's the second, but this is the first one that sounds like Judas Priest. I mean, just so many classic songs that they continue to keep in the set list. I mean, Victim of Change is The Ripper, Tyrant, Genocide, Epitaph and Island of Domination, Dreamer, Deceiver, and Deceiver. I mean, there's so many classic Priest tracks. And then even though they did have that kind of rotating lineup of drummers through the 70s, I mean, this is pure Judas Priest right here. This is where they really came into their own. Halford finds his voice. The guitar duo really kind of settles in, and just Ian Hill keeping it down back there on the bass. I mean, just so many classic Judas Priest tracks on this album.
And that album is just straight up. It sounds freaking evil.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
The lyrics, the way that Rob sings, the way the guitar, just everything just sounds so murky and evil. Hey, was that by Roger Glover? Did he produce that one?
He might have.
No, that was Sin After Sin, the album after that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me see who produced this one.
I think Chris Shanklin? No.
Possibly. Jeffrey Calvert, Max West, and Judas Priest.
Okay.
But yeah, like you put this album on and you hear that opening guitar lick just to Victim of Changes, and it's just you're in there, and it's something else.
What a complete departure from their, I don't know, Leonard Skinner demo. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just complete different.
The thing about that album, well, I'm going to get to it. It's on my list, so when I get to it, I'll talk about it.
All right, Al, what's your next one?
All right, well, my last one was Foo Fighters. Now, I got to say, because, Andy was going to have me on the show, and then I kind of had to cancel out on him because I had a fishing trip tonight, but I got canceled because of weather. The water was too rough. So then I messaged Andy again. I'm like, dude, I'm free tonight. I can come on. He's like, yeah, sure, anytime. So I didn't have any list prepared, so I threw this list together as quick as I can. So Joe said, some things might be out of order, might be too low, whatever. But I just kind of did it as fast as I can. But so my number 17, which would probably be higher on the list, but anyway, it's on my list. And at the time it came out, it was definitely considered a sophomore slump. But time has been very kind to it, and it's become one of the greatest hip hop albums of all time. I'm talking about the Beastie Boys' False Boutique. I remember when it came out, I didn't get it at first either. It was a complete 180 departure from License to Ill. I think everybody was expecting a License to Ill Part 2, and this is a complete turnaround 180, like I said. And I didn't get it for the first 6 months, and then one night it clicked with me. I might have been under the influence of something, and I saw the video for Shadrach on MTV with this multicolored kind of. Yeah. It was like a cartoonish, almost visual. It was awesome. They made awesome videos. I gotta tell you, man. Beastie Boys, and that's when it clicked. And since then, it's become. I consider it. I consider honestly the Sgt. Pepper of hip hop, because there's so many. The Dust Brothers production on this is so layered, and I mean, when you listen to it, you can listen to it 1,000 times, and the 1,000th time you're gonna pick out something you never heard before, because there's so many layers of the album. The way it's layered and produced and all that, it's to me it's genius. The way they painted the picture with all these little samples from here and there. Nowadays, in today's world, you would never be able to do an album like this, because just to pay out all the samples on the album would cost them millions of dollars. Let's just say that, But back then, sampling was still not. It was still in its infancy. You know what I mean? It was still. It wasn't. You had to pay the artists and all that stuff. And but this album is just genius to me. I'm a huge Beastie Boys fan, and Falls Boutique is my favorite album by them. It actually goes between this and Check Your Head, back and forth, but I love Paul's Boutique. To me, it's a genius album, and it's definitely not a sophomore slump anymore. It's regarded as a classic in the genre. So, and that's my 17. I mean, it could be fucking in my top 5, and it should be actually. But like I said, I threw this list together, and I'm kind of doing a little adjustments here and there, but it is what it is, man. So that's my 17.
Yeah, my 17, y'all might leave. My 17, I couldn't put it any higher because everything else I like better, but that's me. But my number 17, I don't know, Killers by Maiden.
Yeah, man.
It's going to be number 17.
Nice.
I absolutely love their debut a lot more than Killers. I don't know what it was about this. There's the back of it. We all know it. But this is really good. And I'm really digging Paul Diano's voice lately. But man, they really have some really good tracks on here, like Wrathchild and Drifter and Killers, the title track. And I absolutely love the album cover. Just I used to have a T-shirt. Just dude with dude pulling him down.
I have a backpack. I have a backpack of that album cover. I gotta buy a denim jacket and put it on there. I still have it off. I gotta make a battle jacket and start with that. But yeah, that's an awesome album cover. I love that album cover.
Yeah, freaking great. But that's going to be number 17 for now, man.
Yeah, man.
These sophomore albums. I don't know what people talk about when they say sophomore slumps, but it was hard for me to cut it down to 20. That's why we cut it out to 20, and then to put them in order. I was telling Joe, I said, man, putting them in order is tough. But go ahead. What's your number 16?
Alrighty. So earlier when Andy was talking about Cream, talking about a 3-piece band that's just firing on all cylinders, just right out of the gate, I always go back and forth between this and their first album as what is my absolute favorite album by these guys. But I'm going to go with Regatta de Blanc by the Police. I mean,
great.
Front to back, just like Outlandos d'Amour, just front to back, all pretty much a perfect album. I mean, just starting out with Message in a Bottle, the title track, which is such a cool little like laid back piece of reggae, and then It's All Right for You, Bring On the Night, Walking on the Moon, On Any Other Day, Bed's Too Big Without You, Does Everyone Stare, and then closing it out with No Time This Time. I mean, just so many classic Police tracks on this album.
Yeah.
The first 2 Police albums, I think, are just absolutely untouchable. But just such a classic second album.
Yeah, I love the bass line too of Walking on the Moon. It's just dude, it's amazing what
when you did. When you listen to that on a really nice like stereo system though, it's awesome, man. Like the way the instruments sound, that bass, and I used to jam that in my car. Like I had an Alpine system with like 2 12-inch subs, and like that when that opening bass line came in, it rattled the car, man. It was great.
And it's so cool that it's not samples or it's the actual bass. It's the actual playing of it, man. That's what makes it so amazing, so authentic. Yeah. All right, what's your next one, man?
All right, we're at what 16, right?
Yep.
All right, I'm going with Black Crowes, Southern Harmony, and Musical Companion. Now, I love the Crowes, dude. To me, like the Crowes is one of the best bands of the '90s, and I love the debut. But Southern Harmony, again, that's the next level, man. They really took it up a few notches, and I love the Crowes, man. And hopefully I'm going to go get to see them open for Aerosmith, and I was toying with the idea of going this Saturday. Actually, it's the opening night in Philadelphia. And I'm still here, like up here in Jersey, so it could be kind of a last-minute decision. If I could find a ticket for cheap or something, I'm gonna go, you know. So, and Black Crowes are opening for them, but Southern Harmony, man. I mean, God, man, I listened to that album a lot back in like '92, man. That was to me one of the best albums, and one of the best albums of the '90s, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. When they were touring. A couple of years ago with Dirty Honey, they played the whole
first album,
the Shake Your Money Maker. But I was kind of hoping that they would have. I would rather hear Southern Harmony all the way.
Well, I saw them on that tour here in New Jersey. There's an amphitheater, and Dirty Honey was great too. That's like one of my favorite like newer bands. They were really. That must have been a dream for them too, because they loved they cite the Black Crowes as a big influence.
Oh, yeah.
And then I saw them. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you can tell by the way they carry themselves. It's kind of crazy.
But then when I saw them the following year, I saw them again in Asbury Park at a legendary place called the Stone Pony. They have like an outside in the back of somebody called the Summer Stage, where they have like bigger shows. Because inside the Stone Pony is like a small club, you know. And And I was hoping like the next year they'd come out because it was actually like the 30th anniversary of Southern Harmony. I was hoping they would do like the whole, but they were still touring the debut, which is fine. But I'd love to hear them do the whole Southern Harmony album.
Oh yeah, me too. From beginning, it's just a great album. The texture of it and Chris Robinson's vocals on that album.
God, man, all band on there, man.
Yeah.
I kind of equate it as like kind of like their Exile on Main Street. That's like their classic, man. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's my number 16.
My number 16. I like the debut just as much as this one, but this was a departure from their debut. Their debut was a big hit. Their sophomore was a little bit more subdued. I'm talking about Rage Against the Machine's Evil Empire. This was more of a alternative hard rock album instead of pure hard rock. The guitar solos were a little bit more guitarish than the sounds of the hip hop sound of their debut. This was just a straight up alternative hard rock album, and it wasn't as political as the first one. This is kind of what will lead to man, what's the name of that band they did with Chris Cornell? I always forget. Audio Slave. Yeah. This sounds a little bit more Audio Slave-ish with the music as well. But yeah, great album, man. And this album cover is so damn cool, man. So
that was a big album, man.
Yeah, Evil Empire. This was the first time I saw them was on this tour, and dude, it was a crazy, crazy show. It was at San Antonio at this place called the Sunken Garden, just outside the zoo. And the freeway passed right above your head because the amphitheater was down. And dude, those pits, just the bottom of it, was just insane. It was a great show. It's a great show. So Evil Empire, Rage Against the Machine.
Nice.
All
Joe,
right.
what do you got?
So my number 15, the first 80s rock band on my list, but certainly not the last. And a band where commonly the debut album is usually referred to as the best album by this band. I don't know. Sometimes I have to go, call me contrarian, but sometimes I have to go with Invasion of Your Privacy.
I do too.
I listen. I grew up on this album. This is one of my dad's favorite albums of all time. I grew up listening to this album front to back all the time, and just there's so many classic Rat tracks on this album. You're in Love, Never Use Love, Lay It Down, Between the Eyes, What You Give Is What You Get, Dangerous But Worth the Risk. I mean, just so many amazing Rat tracks on here. I mean, Warren DeMartini's tearing it up on this album. I mean, I think his solos are better on this album than they are on Out of the Cellar. But, I mean, you can't go wrong with either album, but a lot of the times I lean towards this album as my favorite Rat album.
Yeah, I do too. I like that one better than Out of the Cellar.
I can't disagree with you on that, man. I mean, I remember my brother having the Out of the Cellar and that cassette, and I listened to that cassette a lot, dude. And yeah, sometimes, man, I reach for that more than I reach for Out of the Cellar. And it's tough to beat Out of the Cellar, man. Out of the Cellar is a fucking great album, but
it is.
Yeah, Warren is the man. Yeah, he was really starting to come into his own, like become that guitar hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, Warren was the guitar hero in that band. But I mean, you can't take anything away from Robin Crosby too, because I thought he was great.
He was
underrated.
He pulled it down on that album too.
He pulled it down, man. I mean, the riffs and he did solos too, but they were just not as flashy as Warren. But I think after this album, I think probably after Dancing Under Covers, when Rob, I mean, we're already getting into the career, but when Robin was really he was taking a back seat to everything. Warren was really, really rising and was really the man. But I think still on this album, they were both, they were the beat guitar duo team. You know what I mean? But yeah, Warren's he's one of my favorite guitar players of that era, man.
Yeah.
And sadly, I never saw him live. When I saw Rat I never saw Rat back in the day, and I saw Rat very late, like only a few years ago, when it was only Piercy and Crucier fronting it, and I miss Warren. I had tickets to see when they did Infestation and I had tickets to see them, and I couldn't go. I had to give them to a friend of mine, but that was the only time I kicked myself for missing it because I missed Warren. I'm like,
Yeah.
And now he has like no interest in the reunion or anything. So.
Yeah. And that was a kick-ass lineup too. It was Warren and Carlos Cavazo. I mean, that's a hell of a lineup of guitar players.
Yeah, Carlos is great too, man. You know. So yeah, I mean, that's a great pick though, Joe.
Yeah, I saw Stephen Piercy probably about a couple years ago, like right when they started doing shows again after, well, not after COVID, but when things started to open up a little bit. And man, his band and him really does Rat justice.
I saw him at the same time.
Yeah, and he was really good. He gave it his all, and yeah, the vocals sound old, but they're real.
Yeah.
You expect a gruffier voice after doing it for almost 40 years.
Yeah.
So he put on a good show with it.
Well, you're talking about Stephen Piercy, right?
Yeah.
He was never like, I never considered him. He was more like he had the attitude in his voice. He was never considered a great singer, but I think his singing is great. Like for this type of sleazy type of material, it was perfect. And it was like, Rat was never like that ballad band. They never really did ballads until like later on when they attempted one, but I think it didn't work. I think they were just more straight ahead, hard rock and stuff like that, which I think suited Steven's voice the best,
Well, like on this album, they attempted to do a ballad with "Closer to My Heart."
Closer to My Heart.
Worst songs on the album.
Yeah, they were never good at ballads. Good. One more thing about Rat, and I was toying with. I kept going over my mind, should I consider this a sophomore? Because they had an EP before Out of the Cellar. So I was like, almost like, could I consider Out of the Cellar like kind of a sophomore album? And I just kind of decided against it. Because a lot of people don't. I guess because they consider like Out of the Cellar like the debut.
Yeah.
I kind of consider
debut LP.
I kind of consider the debut, but there's always like controversy. So that's why I kind of left it off. I didn't go ultimately with Out of the Cellar because I would have included it, but I just left it out, man. I was like, whatever, So that's the last thing.
No, you can't. You got to pick another one. That would have been fine. That was good.
Yeah.
All right. What's your next one?
And now, looking at this, it's very low on the list too because it really should be higher. Rainbow Rising, man. Come on, man. Dio, Blackmore, Cozy Powell comes into the band. I mean, come on. Yeah, there you go.
It's my number 14. It's my next pick.
Honestly, man, I'm really looking at this. Like, again, I slapped this list together really quick so I can get on the show. But, yeah, Rainbow Rising, and it's just an incredible album. I mean, arguably the birth of power metal, and a lot of people point to that as like the birth of power metal, and I'll agree with it. And Blackmore is just fucking phenomenal on here, as with Dio, and I mean that album cover too is awesome, man. I love that album cover, the artwork, man. So yeah, that's my number. Was that 15? Right? Yeah, 15. So Rainbow Rising.
And in my opinion, I know that a lot of people like Deep Purple Mark III, but dude, Rainbow kicked their ass. Big time. Just did, man. I don't like that foo-foo blues.
Funny. And it's funny, I didn't get into Rainbow until like much later on, man. Especially the Dio stuff, because nobody really, they were popular with Joel and Turner here in America, but Dio kind of, there was no internet back then. You didn't really know.
Right.
And until like, you go into a record store and then like, this is back in the days. You go to a record store, you make friends with like people that work there. You talk about music like for hours, bro, and people would recommend you shit. And then, I was talking, I guess, about like Sabbath, like, like Heaven and Hell or something, and he's like, "Yo, check out Dio, like in Rainbow." And I'm like, "Really? Maybe he's in Rainbow?" And it was over, man. When I heard that stuff, I was like, "That's probably the best like Dio." So it's amazing, like the first two albums by each band Dio was in is always like the greatest albums, man. If you really look at it, so I love it, man.
I would say the second and third for Rainbow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Long Live Rock and Roll after, right?
Yeah.
The first three for Rainbow. All the Dio and Rainbow was classic. So.
Yeah. I got that. I got their debut on vinyl, but I've also got In Concert on cassette. In Concert's badass, dude. It's got that's epic in concert album. Yeah, that's a good pick. My next one is going to be 90s alternative 90s heavy metal or hard rock. This album is also a killer album that when you throw it on, you listen to it and you get lost in this album. It's so grimy and so dirty and so vicious. Talk about Alice in Chains Dirt.
Yeah.
Dude, this album is grimy, it's scary, it's haunting, it's beautiful, everything all rolled into one. This really does take you on a trip, and it doesn't have to be psychedelic or nothing like that. You're like, damn, this is badass. Like I'm like, each time you hear Dirt, and when you're in the middle of it, you're like, damn, this is each time. It's just such a good album, So Dirt by Alice in Chains.
Beautiful.
We may or may not be talking about that one later too. So so yeah, like I said, my number 14 is Rainbow Rising. I mean, everything Al said. I mean, just you can't top this album. I mean, it's not a perfect album by any means, but the fact that you have Tarot Woman, Stargazer, and Light in the Black all on one album, you're not going to top it. I mean, and then you got Starstruck in there as like a nice little short song in between those three epic songs. And I mean, just such an amazing album. They're all fire on all cylinders. Dio, Blackmore, Cozy Powell. Who else was
Tony Carey?
Jimmy Bain and Tony Carey. Yeah. But yeah, it's I mean, and then the cover, it's one of my favorite album covers of all time. It's just so badass.
Yeah. Cozy rips on that album.
Oh my god, yeah. Cozy is one of my favorite parts of Stargazer, especially.
Yeah.
And the way that Dio sings on that album, he'll carry that on to his solo albums. Because with Sabbath, he slowed down his vocals, to fit the Black Sabbath sound. But dude, when he went solo, we were talking about Holy Diver a couple of weeks ago, and the albums after that. The way that he sang the lyrics, the way, I don't want to say bark them, but just boom, 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 boom. That's where it started from. Was off of Rising. Fantastic album. All right, what's your next one, man?
Going with Def Leppard's High and Dry, my favorite Def Leppard album of all time. I hold the first three Def Leppard albums in high regard. To me, that's the Def Leppard for me. After that, I fell off on them. But I mean, Hysteria is okay. I get a couple songs on there, but the first three, forget it. But High and Dry for me is the top dog for me. And I mean, they just kill it on it. Pete Willis on there, man. I love it, man. So I played the hell out of that album. That stem sound like kind of an AC/DC mode, but you can't go wrong on it, man. So High and Dry, Def Leppard. That's my number 14.
Dude, that title track, that's just awesome. Yeah, that's got Headed for a Heartbreak.
Bring It on the Heartbreak, yeah.
Bring It on the Heartbreak, thank you. Headed for a Heartbreak, I'm sorry, that's Winger.
Yeah.
That's Winger, sorry. I was all like, that doesn't sound right. That melody's off. But either way, That's a really
Saturday
good
night.
album.
Yeah,
I just talked about Alice in Chains Dirt, so you might see a little theme of this one coming up next. A lot of people, there's hate. No, well, there's more love for this album, but some people think it's overrated. I might have it a little bit too low, but it just shows what I have coming up. I'm talking about Nirvana's Nevermind. This is a really good album. Take away all the fame and the Smells Like Teen Spirit and it being regarded one of the greatest of all time or it's overrated. Just throw that out the window and just take it for what it is, a damn good album.
I think people are just bitter because it kind of killed off. People point to it as killing off, the glam rock, the glam metal era, but I don't like calling it hair metal, but I think hair metal just killed itself too, but it was just at the right time that album came out. It was just like the perfect storm,
Yeah.
So I mean, dude, listen, man, it's a great album, dude. Whether you like it or not, it definitely is a cultural phenomenon. Actually, that album had. So,
because just hear the first album, Smells Like Teen Spirit, In Bloom, Come As You Are, Breed, Lithium, and Polly. Dude, that's badass. And then flip it, you got Territorial Pissing, Drain You, Lounge Act, Stay Away, On a Plane, and Something in the Way. And I think I do have it in the right spot because side 2 starts off a little, but it ends strong.
Mm-hmm.
But side 1 is amazing. But I think I got in the right spot of where it is.
That one just barely missed my list. That was one of the ones I had to cut at the end, but absolutely classic. But my next pick, my number 13, is what I would probably call, just by virtue of the production, probably the first ever sludge metal album, and that is Hotter Than Hell. One of the most notoriously weird, not great productions of all time. But I mean, the songs, you just can't beat the songs on this album. I think track for track, the first album might be better, but I think every song on the first album sounds better on a live. Pretty much every song on this album fits this album perfectly. And I mean, just Got to Choose, Parasite, Going Blind, Hotter Than Hell, Let Me Go Rock and Roll, All the Way, Mainline, Coming Home, Watching You, and Strange Ways. I mean, just so many classic 70s hard rock songs. I mean, this album was heavy for 1974, and probably my favorite of the first 3 Kiss albums. Might be my favorite of the 70s Kiss albums in general, but just such an absolute classic 70s hard rock album.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. That's like, the production. People. I think the production actually gives it its charm. It gives it the murkiness and all that. It gives it its heaviness, and it's. I don't know. It sounds almost mysterious in a way.
It does.
Kind of, like in an evil, kind of evilish and dark. I love that. I love that about the first 3 Kiss albums. Like I like the real hungry Kiss. That was, to me, the first 3 albums are my favorite out of all 70s. And that one, actually, I've done a Kiss top 20, and that's my favorite. That was my number 1 Kiss album. So
I have a very controversial favorite Kiss album.
And Dynasty, a lot of listen, man.
My
That's a great album. At the time when I was younger, I dismissed that album, but when you really listen to it now, man, you listen back to it. I mean, everybody says it's a disco album. There's one song in it, it's fucking disco. Everything else is classic Kiss, man. It's, there's some great ones on there too, but Hotter Than Hell, man, that's fucking awesome, man.
I'm sorry. A Destroyer is my favorite.
Another great album.
And the thing is that I only have like 2 or 3 Kiss albums missing from my music collection, and Hotter Than Hell is one of them. So I've never heard Hotter Than Hell.
Dude, you need to rectify that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go out of your way to get that one.
I don't have it in any form. So
I have it on multiple forms.
So I'm going to have to change that because, every time we talk about Kiss, that's mentioned.
Yeah,
I know that Al loves that album.
love that album, man.
Yeah. All right, I'll go
And
for it. What's your
I'm
next one?
glad Joe picked it because somehow I fucking missed it on my list. I threw this list together so quick, and when he pulled it out, I'm like, why the fuck did I not have that on my list? It's like my favorite Kiss album, and I don't have it in the fucking top 20 sophomore albums. You just shoot me now, bro. Anyway, my number 13 is gonna be Dream Theater, Images and Words. Joe already picked this one. I shit, man. What are you gonna? I mean, it leaps and bounds way better than the debut. They got James LaBrie singing "Stepped Up" and whole band songs, everything, and they really were the forerunners of bringing prog metal into like the '90s, man. I mean, when the alternative scene came in, I liked it, but then I kind of got a little tired of it. Everybody started sounding the same, and I kind of wanted to turn to something else. And I kind of went to prog metal, and Dream Theater was like, they're the kings, man. They really, for a band that came out in '92 and to have a hit, with a song like "Pull Me Under," right when Nirvana kind of killed the whole '80s scene out, man. It was kind of pretty refreshing to have something different like them, and being a progressive rock fan that I am, I love Rush, I love Genesis, and Yes, all that stuff. It was kind of cool to have a band again with musicianship, because the '90s alternative was all about the anti-musicianship. It's kind of just strip everything down to back to kind of a punkish kind of thing, which is great in its own right. It's cool to kind of strip things back, but sometimes you want that bombast, you want that musicianship, and the Dream Theater had that in spades, and they carried that into the '90s and made prog metal huge, And for a band to play I mean, I think by the late '90s or mid '90s, they kind of maybe not in America, but overseas. I mean, they were in down south. They were an arena band. They became huge, big, huge in Japan. I mean,
yeah, they were still. I think they were still kind of playing mainly clubs over here. I think, but
wow.
yeah, because when I saw them because the first time I saw them was in '96, and they played a club here in New Jersey. So, but they eventually built up. I mean, now they play theaters here and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it was cool. So, but anyway, my Dream Theater, Images and Words. That's my number 13.
My number 13. It's already been mentioned by Joe, but I'm going to talk about it because I love it. I love the album cover. Judas Priest. Sideways.
Yeah, man.
This is a great album, man. The songs on here are just amazing. It's I mean, what else is there to say about it that he didn't already say? The fallen angel on the ground, man. The art of the album cover. This was what, 74, guys?
76.
76. Okay.
74 was the debut Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, 76. Yeah.
Badass. But this this was redone in '83. I just saw that, so it's not the original.
It's a reissue, yeah.
RCA in '83.
I love that album cover, man. That's one of my favorite album covers.
It is badass. Also, Sin After Sin's also another great album cover. That Old Castle or whatever it is.
They have so many amazing album covers.
Yeah, they do.
Class.
Mm-hmm.
All right, go for it, Joe. What's your next one, man?
My number 12, another amazing album cover. By far, the best album from this band, no contest. And that is Peace Sells, But Who's Buying? I mean, probably the only Megadeth album that I truly love. I mean, just right from the beginning with Wake Up Dead, you start with that intro to Wake Up Dead, and you're just pummeling for an entire 2 sides of vinyl. I mean, Wake Up Dead, The Conjuring, Peace Sells, Good Morning Black Friday. Devil's Island. I mean, there's so many amazing thrash tracks on this album. Back when Megadeth was still a true thrash band, and I mean, this is one of, I mean, that period in 80 late 85, early 86, where you got Peace Cells, Master of Puppets, Rain and Blood, and Spreading the Disease all within like 6 months. I mean,
y'all keep going.
Probably the greatest era of thrash, just that 6 months where they got all those amazing albums from these bands.
Yeah.
Peace
That was
Cells,
definitely, that was definitely the probably the peak year of thrash, man.
Yeah.
You know, the peak like 2 years, 85 to like 87.
Yeah, because you got Bonded by Blood, you got Spreading the Disease, Peace Cells, Master Puppets, Rain and Blood, and then so many other. I think Feel the Fire was 85 from Overkill. Taking Over was 86. So they put two out back to back right there. I mean, just so many amazing albums in that like year and a half span.
Yeah. That's when I really started really getting into thrash too. Like, you know, it's kind of overtaken the more the glam stuff, you know, that I liked before. I mean, I still like that too. I was one of those weird dudes that I kind of straddled the fence. I like both, you know. Not weird, but I mean, just, you know, it was always like everything was segregated. Like it was either like, you know, you're a poser, you like don't like, you know, it's whatever, dude. You know, I don't know. To me, whatever was good, man. You know. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here wearing a Kick shirt talking about thrash metal. So I mean, you kind of.
This is great, and they're actually pretty soon. They're playing their last show in Maryland.
Yep, I'll be there.
Are you going?
Yep.
Hey, where do you live, man?
PA, just about an hour away from where they're playing.
Oh, okay. What part of PA?
Right on the Maryland border. Near Gettysburg.
Oh, cool, dude. Cool. Yeah, man, that's cool. I mean, I forgot that you were like pretty close to me. So.
Yeah.
Well, in another week and a half, you won't be close to me.
Yeah, no.
When is M3? That's where they're playing. M3, right?
It's at the venue where M3's at. It's at Maryland. It's just them. It's they're headlining. It's them and.
So what date is that on?
It's 2 weeks from this Sunday. It's
damn. I should time it and drive like down because I'm driving down to Florida actually, and by myself. I should time it and stop there, watch the show, and then go.
It's a Sunday night. I think it's September 17th is the date.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
dude, I've had the chance to see Kicks a few times, and I've had bad luck with them, man. Like every time I've wanted to see them, somehow the shows got canceled or moved, and I could never see them. And it's one of the bands I've never got to see live, and I probably won't be able to catch that live show either, which sucks, man.
Yeah, this will be my 10th time seeing them.
Ah, man, it's cool. And I heard they were such an awesome live band. So.
Oh, they're amazing. I get to go to M3 every year, and that's always in May, and they headline a night every year, and it's always an amazing show.
Yeah, they were gonna play here in New Jersey at Starland Ballroom. Jimmy had the heart attack, and then it got pushed or something, and then I don't know what happened, and then they were gonna play again. It got rescheduled, but then it got canceled. I guess because of his health, they still didn't want to do shows.
Yeah, they canceled their shows for a good couple of months there because he had two. He had a stroke or a heart attack 2 years ago, and then he had the one when he had it on stage last fall. So he had two different heart attacks.
The bass player actually saved his life, man.
Yeah, he's an EMT.
Yeah, so he'll never get. Well, they're ending anyway, but I was gonna say like that move will cement him in that band forever. He'll never get kicked out. So.
Hey, so
but anyway,
how many times have they also had a lot of lineup changes or not really?
Well, Donnie Purnell hasn't been in when they reformed, right?
Yeah.
They never.
So they kept
terms with him.
No, not at all.
And the funny thing is that he wrote all the songs too.
Yeah. So they kept the same lineup pretty much throughout the 80s and 90s, except for on their second album, they had another guitar player come in on their second album. and then their original guitar player came back for everything after that. Then they broke up in the late 90s, and when they reformed in like 2003, it was everybody except the bass player who they kicked out because they all hated him pretty much. And it's been the same lineup ever since, except for right after the first post-COVID shows. The guitar player who left in the 80s for that one album, he got put on house arrest for like a year or two, and he hasn't come back. Steve Whiteman, the singer, was actually on Eddie Trunk's show yesterday talking about the final show and everything, and they said that the guitar player's going to be playing a couple songs with him at the final show, as well as Brad Divins, who played guitar on their second album. He's going to play a couple songs with them at the final show as well.
But Brian's fourth place is still with them, right?
Yeah. It's the lineup that's been playing the past couple years. It's still Steve, Brian, Jimmy, Mark, the bass player, and Bob Perry, who is a local Maryland guy who had a couple other bands that he joined them for the past couple years, ever since Ronnie's been out.
Okay.
But you see, that's how you do it. You do it for the fans. You bring back other members that the fans love, especially when it comes to rock.
Yeah.
People love their band members in the band. So, that's huge to have so-and-so come and play a couple of songs, probably from that album.
Yeah.
The parts that he wrote and stuff like that. So that's,
and especially since they're such a local band that they made it big in a sense nationally, but they never made it on like a Rat, Poison kind of level. So their biggest fan base is still in the local Maryland, really kind of Maryland, Virginia area.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the venue that they're doing this this last show at is a venue that Slayer played on their farewell tour. This is a venue that this Saturday night it's Leonard Skinner and ZZ Top, so it's a big venue. It's like a 20,000 seat pavilion, and Kicks by themselves sold this place out in an hour.
Wow.
They sold out the tickets in an hour for their last show.
Their area, man. That's their hometown. Yeah.
And that just shows how big they are in that area still. That like for their last show that they announced it. Steve announced it on stage at M3 this year in May. The tickets went on sale 3 days later, and they sold out in an hour. All that's left is lawn seats.
Because M3 is a big festival.
Yeah, it's until the whole Monsters of Rock cruise kind of started. M3 was like the big 80s metal festival.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, back to the beginning. I mean, Scorpions played there one year. Twisted Sister played there before AJ died. Rat played there a bunch. Dokken played there. Kicks headlines a night every year, but all the big bands still kind of play that. Now they're starting to lose a lot of the bands that are either retiring or not playing anymore. So they started to broaden their horizons. Last year, Blue Oyster Cult was playing there one of the days. This year, Styx headlined a night. So like they're kind of broadening the scope from just 80s hair metal to just more older bands in general, which is great because I love all those bands. And it's really awesome to get a chance to see them because that was the first time I ever had a chance to see Blue Oyster Cult. Was at M3 last year, but it's still really popular. I mean, this year I think the attendance this year was the best attendance I've seen for the festival in years. So it's like they're keeping people involved, which is great for something like that you would think would slowly start to lose interest over the years. That they're still keeping as much interest as they had originally.
Yeah, I've talked to Kate Doré about this, and also Brad Daw. Brad Daw is a friend of ours that's been on the show several times. He goes to M3 every year with his wife, but we're trying to plan a Black Spinner meetup at Rocklahoma in 2025. So,
that would be cool.
Labor Day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So Kate Doré said she'll look for like. What's the word I'm looking for? Like for houses for us to stay in or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that's still the developing parts. But we would like everybody to go and go see a nice rock heavy metal festival, and then And then we're like, oh, Al's going to be in Florida. He's just going to be right there. Now he can be a little bit closer. So, I've already, and Jerry said that he'll go. So, I've already got a couple of people, but of course we need to wait till it gets closer. So,
Yeah.
you guys keep that in mind. Rocklahoma 2025.
Yeah, I'd like to go to that, man. That'd be
I
cool.
I know that it's a ways away, but we're planning to go to Hawaii next year. And that's going to take a lot of money. So I got to
Yeah.
pick and choose what I'm going to, do. All right, guys, where are we?
We are on Al's number 12.
All right.
Yeah, so my number 12, I'm going to go with The Cult, Love. This is The Cult still kind of in their goth kind of phase, a little bit more alternative, before the Electric album when it went full on AC/DC with Rick Rubin. But I love the Love album. It's great, man. The She Fell Sanctuary, Rain, Nirvana, great songs on there. I didn't get into it until later. So Electric was really the first album I got into The Cult, and like Sonic Temple. Then I went back and discovered Love, and I was like, wow, man, it's just like they're different like on every album, man. They went through all these phases, and that's a great album, man. You throw that on, it's like really. I love Billy Duffy's like kind of gothic kind of guitar sound on there, and he's really almost kind of. They were like almost kind of the Cure, like hard rock Cure, almost like kind of like that, And I know it's a great album. I just had to put it in there. And it's their sophomore because they had an album called Dreamtime was their debut. So this is their sophomore album. So love by The Cult. I love Love.
Yeah, The Cult. I think I've said this several times before. When The Cult came out, people didn't know, or the media didn't know where to place them. They were going to be alternative rock or hard rock. Every album, like Al was saying, was different. It was hard to pinpoint them. I was able to see them.
It was hard to categorize them. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Really,
I got to see them once when they did open air here in Houston. And they only did open air once, but man, I sure wish they did it again because that had Alice in Chains, Ministry, Cult, Ghost. Anthrax got rained out, so they had to skip them. Slayer was there. That was like the second time I was able to see Slayer, and it was towards the end of their career. And man, I really can't listen to Slayer sitting down, but dude, live, that is.
Yeah, I saw the farewell tour. They are phenomenal
to see live, and not just. I mean, they got so much music and power coming off that stage, and their fans are just in the middle of it. It just makes you want to be in the middle of it as well. Really good. I'm going to go ahead and share mine. Al should be here in a minute. Stone Temple Pilots with Purple. It's going to be my number 12. I remember the first time I saw them, because I did see them several times, but the first time I saw them was on this tour, on the Purple tour, on 12 Gracious Melodies. I used to jam the CD all the time. I was so glad that I was able to find this on album not too long ago. This has a different color of it. It's off the Atlantic label, but it's splattered. It's a blue splatter on it, which is pretty cool. But yeah, this was a really good album. And in fact, one thing about Stone Temple Pilots, unfortunately, they got lumped up with trying to be Pearl Jam, and fucking media, I swear, they weren't even anywhere close to Pearl Jam. Absolutely nothing near it.
That's what I always like to say is that grunge was the dumbest label ever invented for music, because the 5 big grunge bands, Nirvana, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, and STP, none of them sound remotely alike.
No, none of them. Because you had your Soundgarden doing metal and bringing back the Zeppelin Sabbath riffs, and then you had the classic rock of Pearl Jam, the punkish of Nirvana. It was just so different. Everywhere was different, and STP had that like just a pop rock psychedelic, great songwriting, great hooks. So that's my number 12, Stone Temple Pilots with Purple.
Great pick.
That's a good album. I love it.
So my number 11, one of the most classic albums of all time, Led Zeppelin 2.
Yeah.
I mean, just so many,
Yeah.
radio hits. I mean, pretty much you've heard almost every song on this album on the radio.
Yeah.
Whole Lot of Love, What Is and What Should Never Be, Heartbreaker, Living, Lovin' Made, Ramble On, Bring It On Home. I mean, just so many classic Zeppelin songs on this album. This is if normally if I just want to put a Zeppelin album on, just like a short Zeppelin album, just to get a nice quick dose of Led Zeppelin, this is the one I'm going to go to more often than not. Just because even though Physical Graffiti is my favorite, it's a longer listening experience. You really kind of have to get into Physical Graffiti. You can just pop this on and just get your quick, hard-hitting dose of Zeppelin, and I mean, it's just such a fantastic album.
Yeah, it is. It is. Unfortunately, I forgot it. And when I was going through my albums, I said, "No, it's going to be too late to put it somewhere because it would be in my top 10." But I had already had mine set in stone. But yeah, that's a fantastic album. And then you're right; everything can be heard on the radio. That's how great that album is. Zeppelin 2. In fact, sometimes that's my favorite, or sometimes it's Houses of the Holy, or sometimes it's 3. They go back and forth for me. Oh, what's your next one, man?
My next one's Skid Row's Slave to the Grind.
Awesome.
Come on, man. From their debut to this one, they got heavier. They were a band that just got heavier and heavier. I mean, but this album is just fucking killer from beginning to end. Monkey Business, Slave to the Grind. Some versions of the album had Get the Fuck Out. Some versions had I forgot what other song it was they did replace, but I mean, shit, Quicksand Jesus. I mean, there's so many great songs in there, and Sebastian's just like ridiculous vocally on here, and production-wise, guitars are like just so heavy and stuff like that. I mean, their debut was great too. I love the debut, but when they fucking came out with this one, I was like, holy shit! Like well, what the hell were they listening to, man? They're touring with Pantera, I guess, or something.
Yeah.
And maybe that rubbed off on them. But I mean, I think they toured with Pantera on this album, I think. So I don't know if it was the direct result, but yeah, man, Slave to the Grind, Skid Row, Slave to the Grind is my number 11.
I'm so glad someone brought it up because that was one that pained me to cut from my list.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. That is a complete departure from their debut because their debut was okay. It was your regular MTV late 80s kind of.
Yeah, it was the glam metal, like going towards the tail end, They had some grit to them, though, still on an album, but this next one, holy shit.
It was a complete departure. And it's
what
kept their name alive because I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying they weren't going for the hit single on this album. You know what I mean? They were like, they were definitely going harder, man.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the first. They say it's the first heavy metal album to debut at number 1 on the Billboard charts. Yeah, so to debut at number 1. The first heavy metal album that they said ever went to number 1 was I think Quiet Riot's Metal House.
Yeah,
I think that's like considered the first heavy metal album to go number 1. But this one debuted at number 1, so that was the difference. So I mean, Metal House kind of, I guess, built up to it. I think Metal House
knocked Thriller off.
Was it Thriller? Yeah.
Thriller.
I thought it was Synchronicity by the Police, but yeah, it was Thriller. Yeah,
it was one of the many, many times that Thriller was number 1 and something knocked it off, and it was Quiet Riot.
And then Thriller would come back to number 1 again.
Yeah,
those are the days when the charts like fluctuated, man. build up to number one, stay there for a little while, you drop a little bit, you release your next single, then boom, you come back up to number one.
Yeah.
That's what Thriller was, because Thriller came out in 82, but it really didn't break big till 83.
Yeah.
Because of the videos.
And then it was still big in 84, and it was just ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because both Pyromania and Van Halen 1984 were prevented from being number one by Thriller.
Yeah. Yeah, look at that, see? Yep.
And that's when it meant something.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Because now the charts, I mean, nobody even talks about them. I don't even know what's number one right now. But back in the day, you knew what was number one, you know?
And nowadays, you sell like 10,000 albums and you can hit like number one. Like,
yeah.
And then they take into account like what the streaming and all that stuff. You know?
Well, that's like you see Judas Priest Firepower was the highest charting album of their career. AC/DC Power Up was one of the highest charting albums of their career. It's all these like brand new albums by these bands, which is what made it even funnier when 72 Seasons didn't hit number one, because all these other albums are like getting really high up, and then 72 Seasons came out, and Metallica had this big string of number one albums, and 72 Seasons didn't hit number one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Was it because of Taylor Swift song?
Probably.
That 72 Seasons is a good album. I like it. It's pretty good. Is it my go?
Yep.
I like this band a lot. They came out, they premiered 2004, and this album's from 2006. And I have it on number 11.
11.
Right. And this is the 10th anniversary edition, Dawes. There's Nothing Is Wrong. It's a really good album, man.
So what's the name of the band?
Huh?
What's the name of that band?
Dawes. D-A-W.
I never heard of them. Heard of them. So.
They're kind of like folk rock with a really good, guitar to it, and also really good harmonies. The album I think is on cream color, and then they also gave you a 45 that's red, came along with it, so that was pretty cool too. I was so excited to find this. I saw them the last time was probably this past February. The last time I saw them, I try to see them every time they come to town, but I've never met them. Al, I've never met them. Yeah. I really dig this band. I will send y'all a link to their music if y'all like it. You know, just to check them out. They're heavily influenced by like Jackson Browne, that 70s singer-songwriter kind of vibe. All right, we're up to the top 10 already.
All righty, top 10. And what better way to start off the top 10 than probably the greatest band of all time? And much like Led Zeppelin 2, another album that you've probably heard every single song off this album on the radio, and that is Black Sabbath, Paranoid. I mean, start to finish, War Pigs, Paranoid, Planet Caravan, Iron Man, Electric Funeral, Hand of Doom, Rat Salad, Fairies Wear Boots. I mean, start to finish, I mean, that's Black Sabbath right there. I mean, just, it's absolutely classic front to back. I mean, for as much as you hear a lot of these songs, I will never get tired of 95% of that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just so many absolutely classic Black Sabbath tracks on it. My favorite Sabbath is the middle era Ozzy stuff, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, Sabotage. But I mean, you can't go wrong with any of those first 6 Ozzy Sabbath albums.
Oh, no.
So, Paranoid's my number 10.
Hey, Al, that sound is coming back. You want to, after you say yours, you want to go out and come back in?
Yeah. So my number 10 is going to be Motley Crue, Shot of the Devil.
Oh,
What?
God, I forgot.
This is my favorite Crue album. I like it better than the debut. Debut is good too, and I love the '94 album. So those are my top 3. But Shout is definitely my number 1. That's when I came into them. My older brother had the tape, and I played it, and I was like, dude, this is kind of evil sounding, you know, some of the stuff. And I was like, to me, that's like their best album, man. I mean, they were at peak in that album there. So that's Child of the Devil. I'm not going to dwell too much on it because everybody knows it. You know, I don't know if anybody else has it on the list. I know Andy probably doesn't because he was like surprised.
Oh, dude,
and
I completely forgot about it, man. Jeez.
so I'm gonna come back out and come back in. All right.
All right, cool. My number 10. It dropped down just a little bit from what I had it earlier, but it's going to be Diary of a Madman at my number 10. You know, you were just talking about Black Sabbath's Ozzy. Well, this is his second album, of course, his sophomore. Oh, dude, the back of it, just evil, dude. Freaking badass. But, you know, the big departure, we spoke about Blizzard of Oz a couple weeks ago on the BS sessions with Mark, Jerry, and Charles on the Jet label, his classic label, Jet. But this is such a big difference from Blizzard of Oz. The production is better. Randy Rhoads' playing is more spotlighted here. The songs on here are a little bit more evil to them. When a Blizzard of Oz was, I don't want to say poppy, but catchier heavy metal. This was just pure metal, a pure metal album. Diary of a Madman. Look at that motherfucker. Just man, his album covers were great as well. You know, when it comes to giving fans a whole package, heavy metal music really does it. From the album covers to the liner notes to everything you want to know. They Heavy metal music really does do a good job of that. All right, what's your number 9?
Alrighty, so my number 9 is one that Al mentioned earlier, and that is Def Leppard. High and Dry is my number 9. I mean, I'd agree. I go back and forth between this and Pyromania as to what my favorite Def Leppard album is.
Yeah.
Usually I'll say this, but I mean, title track High and Dry, Saturday Night, Let It Go, another Hit and Run, Bringing on the Heartbreak, into Switch 625, and then side 2. I mean, Mirror, Mirror, On Through the Night, Lady Strange, No, No, No. I mean, just so many amazing tracks on this album. And it's, like I said, this and Pyromania just back to back, two of the greatest early 80s hard rock albums.
I've always preferred Pyromania. Oh, my number 10 was Diary of a Madman.
Oh,
Was
see,
my
now
number
I forgot that one. Holy shit! How can I forget that one, man?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I wasn't thinking in that Ozzy mode. I was thinking of Sabbath, but not Ozzy solo. So
Yeah.
No, I'm glad you picked up on that one. So you're done, Joe?
Yep, number 9.
Okay, so we're number 9. Joe touched on this one earlier. Megadeth Peace Cells, classic, man. I mean, that's when Megadeth really. Their debut was like raw and just kind of very unpolished. This is when they had more of a budget. They didn't blow the whole budget on drugs. Like their debut. But yeah, I mean, I love this album. I played the hell out of it when I was younger in high school. Again, 1986, a pivotal year in thrash. With this one, you know, Puppets, Rain and Blood, and I mean, three Titan albums right there. And but this one, man, I mean, that's arguably Megadeth's best album. I go between this one and Rust. Although I do love So Far So Good So What as well. I love that one as well. But arguably, like their classics go between this one and Rust in Peace. So there's camps that like one or the other or whatever, and I kind of tend to kind of bounce back and forth on them. But I mean, I came into Megadeth on this album, so really, this album is probably my favorite by them. And so Megadeth's my number 9. Peace Cells with Who's Buying.
Good choice. My next one, I'm going all the way back to 1969 or 70. I gotta see this. Anyway, I put this on here because number 1, I love it. Number 2, I've been going through my albums in alphabetical order. I think y'all are aware of that. And I've always loved the Almond
Yeah,
Brothers
you're
band.
in the Allman Brothers now, right?
Huh?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm
No,
about to
I'm saying
finish
you're in the
Almond
Allman
Brothers.
Brothers now, right?
Huh? Yeah.
No,
That's
no,
right.
I'm saying you're right now. We're going through your albums. You're in the Allman Brothers, I think, right now, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Was
yeah.
that
But
like
I'm
what
about
you're
to
listening
finish
to?
tonight. I've got one more to go. But this is their sophomore Idle Waddle South.
Yeah,
That's such a
yeah,
great album, man. This is
great
so
album,
good.
man.
This is the last
Yeah,
one with the great Dwayne. This starts off with a revival, dun, 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 hey baby, can you hear me? And then it's got Midnight Rider and the great instrumental of In Memory of Elizabeth Reed. Flip It
yeah.
Over. They really do a great cover of Hoochie Coochie Man. So yeah, I Want a Sauce by the Allen Brothers is my number 9.
I have I have that double album, Beginnings, which is the first album.
Yeah,
Um, so like, yeah, I have that album, but on that compilation, I think I don't know if they remixed the album or remixed some of the stuff on there, but I still like it. Beginnings is, yeah, their first two albums like packaged together. So yeah, that's a
yeah.
great album. Ottawa South, man. Allman Brothers is my favorite Southern rock band. I don't even consider them Southern rock, really. They're just great,
They're
kind of
just
all
yeah.
around, you know. But they gave birth kind of like to that. All the Southern rock bands kind of like looked up to them as like the godfathers, of that scene, that genre. So
Yeah, we're gonna go to Georgia in October, and we're gonna stop in Macon. They've got a Almond Brothers Museum, and they're
oh, cool.
actually a house that they all lived in together
Wow,
between 70 and 73,
wow.
which was the peak. And they did a lot of recordings. They did a lot of rehearsals in that house, and they all lived there together. So
Mm.
they changed it to a museum. Hopefully, they got something of vinyl on there that I might want to pick up. I'll
Cool.
check it out. But yeah, I'm almost through with my Almond Brothers. I thought they was going to take me a week, and it is. I just have one more, which is Reach for the Sky, which was into the 80s.
Yeah.
So it's been fun. I know that's going to take me a long time, but all right, guys. Joe, what's your next one, man?
Alrighty, my number 8, I believe, and there's been a couple bands we've talked about throughout our list so far where they put out a debut album that was okay, but it really wasn't like the sound they'd become to be known for. They really like they didn't come into their own yet. And there's a couple more on my list that'll be like that. But this is one of the first ones where like really like the first album is good. It has some good songs on it, but it's nowhere near everything that came after. And starting with this album, I mean Motorhead Overkill. I mean,
Oh,
just the
yeah,
first album's good, but I mean right from the beginning of this album, I mean the drum intro to Overkill. I mean,
yeah,
there's a reason that 95% of No Sleep Till Hammersmith is this album. I mean, Overkill, Stay Clean, No Class, Metropolis, Capricorn, Limb from Limb, Tear You Down, Damage Case. So many amazing classic Motorhead tracks on this album. And this is the album where they really kind of came into their own with that classic
yeah.
lineup of Lemmy, Filthy Animal, and Fast Eddie. I mean, just absolutely classic.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
man, that almost made my top 20. So that's a great pick, man. I'm glad you picked that one. So my number 8 is going to be King's X. Gretchen goes to Nebraska. say that one fast. This is their second album. I love their debut, Out of the Silent Planet. That's when their debut came out. I got right into them, but when this album came out, they really took their songwriting to like a next level. Their harmonies, their sound, some of Ty Tabor's best guitar tone and solos, and I just love their harmonies. And Over My Head is a classic. That was a big video on MTV actually. Um, Summerland, another great song. There's so many great ones. A lot of people consider this kind of their masterpiece, and but I mean, for me, I love King's X, so I always recommend like getting their first 6 albums. If you get their first 6 albums, you're good, man. I like the stuff after that, but the first 6 are absolute killer. But this one, man, is just if I had to put like a sophomore album, I had to put this one on there because I love them so much, and so number 8 is gonna be Gretchen Goes to Nebraska by King's X.
Yeah, I think I showed Al. We were on vacation in New Mexico, and I always stop at a record store, and I found a really good box set of theirs that has the first
Yeah.
6 albums. And there was $15 for 6 CDs of theirs, and
Yeah,
the
yeah,
liner notes
yeah.
are in there. It was pretty cool, man.
That's their Atlantic Records years.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, it was a nice box.
If you get that box set, you're damn good, man.
Yeah.
That's a good value too. $15.
Yeah, it was. I was like, how can I not get this?
Yeah.
My next one is probably going to be on y'all's. It's probably going to be higher, I'm sure, or unless Al forgot. but I'm talking about "Ride the Lightning" by Metallica. It's going to be my.
I'm going to be pretty positive that's going to be on everybody's list. I could probably bet my life on that one.
So this is my number 8. I remember when I found this, I was at a used bookstore, and I was going through all the albums, and I'm one that goes through everything. I was down on my knees in the bargain bin for 50 cents. Someone had hid this one along with Master of Puppets because these were like $6 each. And I think they're still the originals because they're off Elektra 84, yeah. So someone had hit them in the back. They were going to come back for it. Well, when I came back there.
Yeah. No, I'm saying Ride the Lightning, if you ever find a Ride the Lightning on the Megaforce label, get it because that's worth a lot of money, dude.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I have the Megaforce. I have the Megaforce Ride the Lightning on cassette, like the original Megaforce pressing, and even the cassette can go for some money. But if you have the vinyl of that, forget it. If you find a green vinyl of that, that's even more money.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And recently I found a green vinyl of it, but it was a bootleg. But it was sealed. It was so cool looking, and it had like colored vinyl that I had to get it. It was just different, man. It was just cool to have a different thing, even though it's a bootleg. It was only like it wasn't even like it was like $25 or something like that. So I had to get it. So Ride the Lightning, yeah. I mean,
so that's my number 8 is Ride the Lightning.
Don't
And if
do
you
that
want
one,
to write to their fan club, just message me and I'll give y'all the address. and maybe they'll send you a T-shirt. All right, number 7, guys.
All right, number 7. A band that I really got into after starting to listen to a bunch of podcasts a couple of years ago, especially the Rock and Metal Combat podcast, but that would be Merciful Fate, Don't Break the Oath. I mean, just absolutely killer. I mean, just so many amazing tracks on this album. It's my favorite Merciful Fate album. Probably my favorite album that King Diamond ever sang on. I mean, just absolutely classic. Dangerous Meeting, Nightmare, Desecration of Souls, The Oath, Gypsy, Welcome Princess of Hell, Come to the Sabbath. I mean, just so many great evil tracks on this album. It's amazing.
Wow.
I remember when that's a great pick. I didn't pick that on my list, but I mean another one like that kind of slipped through. But I remember a friend of mine in high school, like a friend of mine, actually, his older brother had that on CD. He had that one and Melissa, and I was always like, because I grew up in the Catholic household, my parents are Catholic, and I grew up in a Catholic household, so I was afraid to always bring like those types of albums, that Slayer, Rain and Blood, things like that. I had these album covers that were like pretty evil looking. If I did it, I kind of snuck it in because my mom would be like, throwing holy water on me or something. You know what I mean? But But my friend's older brother had that, and I remember being blown away, like hearing those albums, man. I was like, wow, you know, like King Diamond's voice was just to be haunting, and it's like scary, dude. He can go like through these different, like, um, octaves in his voice, dude, and would just kind of shock you. Back then, it was like, holy shit, how can a guy like sing so high, falsetto, and all that stuff, man? And then lyrically, dude, it was just like total satanic, And I didn't dare put it loud in the house. If I'd listen to it, it'd be on headphones or something. You know what I mean? So, but that's a great pick, Joe. Great pick. So
What's
my
your
number 7. I don't know if you're done talking about it, Joe. Are you?
Yeah.
Are you done? Okay. All right. My number 7 is gonna be Iron Maiden Killers. I think Andy brought this one up before. I came in Iron Maiden at with Number of the Beast, but over the years I've really the Paul Di'Anno era, the first 2 albums have really become favorites of mine. When I didn't listen to them for a long time until years later after I discovered Maiden, and now I hold them in high regard. I mean, I think Paul Di'Anno is actually my favorite singer in Maiden now. And not to take anything away from Bruce, I love Bruce, but those first 2 Maiden albums, man, are just to me like they're. I think Number of the Beast is probably still my favorite because I came in on that one, so it's a sentimental favorite. But Killers in the first one, like right behind it. So, and Killers, the production on the first album was real raw. Killers came in with the producer. Who's the producer on there, Andy? I'm slipping my mind. Martin Birch.
Martin Birch.
Martin Birch. The great Martin Birch. I
Yeah.
shouldn't forget his name, but he came in and the production on the album, quote unquote, killer. I love it, man. And it gave him a little bit more polish, but not as raw sound as the debut. But I loved it, man. I love the songs on there too. So that's my number 7 is Killers by Iron Maiden. And those people who say that Paul Di'Anno can't or it doesn't have, he has the same range as Bruce Dickinson. If you really get down to it and you really listen to it, he has the same range as. It's just that he's not as operatic as like Bruce is. So because Bruce has a bit more of an operatic nature to his voice, obviously people are going to be like, oh, he has more range, he's a broader range. It's really no, it's really not true. Listen to Paul Di'Anno, like, he hits high notes on there that are insane, dude. I dare anybody to try to hit them. So that's all I'm saying. It's a bit of an overblown thing where, oh, Bruce has way wider range. It's not true. So
Yeah, on the music Facebook pages that we all follow, that we're all aware of, for some reason it's you got to pick one or the other, and I don't know why. Because I love them both. It's the same
no,
thing.
I love both. Yeah.
So my next one, I was going through my CDs. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you done now? Oh,
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
And I was pulling out the CD cover. I say, man, why don't I just leave this out? Because I always talk about this album like almost every month, no matter what the category is. Siamese Dreams by Smashing Pumpkins is my number 7. Yeah, number 7. I talk about this all the time. And I say, what, I'm just going to leave it out.
Yeah.
Instead of pulling it back out. But yeah, Siamese Dreams. The Gish was good, but dude, this was just so calculated and so perfect and still so rocking and so raw at the same time. So Siamese Dreams by Smashing Pumpkins is mine.
Yeah, it's a great one, man.
Yeah, it's a good
That's probably my favorite release by them.
Yeah, it is my favorite. Oh. All right, what's your next one, Joe?
All righty, my number 6. I will be the last one to talk about this album instead of the first one for once, and that is Iron Maiden Killers. My favorite Iron Maiden album, my favorite Iron Maiden lineup, just so absolutely classic. I mean, and I always pick the American release of both of the first 2 albums, and that kind of bugs me. The most recent remastered CDs that Iron Maiden put out of the first two albums are the UK pressings. So on the first album, it leaves off Sanctuary, and this album leaves off Twilight Zone, which pisses me the hell off. Because that's one of my favorite Iron Maiden songs, and it's not on the CD. So yeah, I have to go back and get the CD from '98 with that remaster to get Twilight Zone, which pisses me off. So, but yeah, Killer is one of my favorite albums of that era. One of my favorite New Wave British heavy metal albums.
Oh, wow.
Definitely my favorite Iron Maiden album for all the reasons that you guys have said. Just absolutely classic.
Good album. It just is. And again, like I was telling Joe, while you were gone, heavy metal bands just give fans great stuff. Their packaging, album covers, liner notes, just everything. It's just so packaged perfect for a fan. It's just great. All right, what's your next one, man? Number 6.
Well, this one's been touched by both of you. It's Judas Priest, Sad Wings of Destiny. And what else can I say about it? It's when Judas Priest became really Judas Priest, like Joe said, and one of my favorite. I mean, I'm a huge 70s Priest is my favorite Priest, and this album is not my favorite 70s Priest album, but it's probably my second. I don't know. It's tough to rank them actually, but this one, you know, everybody always talks about the Scream in Victim of Changes, you know, but listen to the Scream from Dreamer Deceiver into Deceiver. The way Halford, dude, it's just blood curdling, like it raises the hair on your arms. I mean, I don't know if he's ever reached a note that high. It's ridiculous how high that note is. It's almost like was the tape sped up, but it wasn't, you know, because Halford was young, he was powerful, he definitely hit that note, man. I mean, that was just ridiculous. That's one of my favorite songs by him, actually. The whole Dreamer Deceiver suite, the two songs going into each other. I love that one. I wish they would play that live, man. I'd love to hear that live, but I don't know if Halford could attempt that Scream now.
Do it, yeah.
I don't know if he'd be able to do it, but probably why they stay away from it. But yeah, everybody always talks about the Victim of Changes Scream, but listen to that Dreamer Deceiver Scream, dude. That's insane, man. Insane. So, but that's my number 6.
And that's also the same reason why Deep Purple doesn't do Child in Time anymore. Ian can't get those anymore. You know,
and there's no shame in that. No, there's no shame in that, man. I mean, it's
oh
you know,
yeah, I mean,
you know,
I mean, doing it before is a achievement in itself to make it classic like that. And he doesn't have to play it live because look at us now. We still talk about that track. It's an amazing song off an amazing album, Deep Purple and Rock.
There's an interesting tidbit about Judas Priest Sad Wings too. There's been a lot of debate, and I think it's been talked about online, and I think even Priest themselves have said it. But I think like when it was originally printed, the sides were reversed. So I think it's supposed to start with Prelude. The album properly is supposed to start with Prelude because Prelude is like the beginning. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I'm saying? So, and it starts with Victim of Change, but I think there's a pressing you can get that actually has it where it starts with Prelude. I don't have the pressing itself, but I think they did try to correct it. But I think it's just so ingrained in everybody's head that it starts with Victim of Changes that I think they reverted back to that subsequent pressings, and they just have the album proper start with Victim of Change. But I think originally it was intended to start with side 2 and Prelude, which was supposed to be side 1.
Right.
And but it's just kind of a weird thing, you know. But I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, I've heard about that too, and that's the way this one is. It starts off with Victim of Changes.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, almost all the CD releases start off Victim of Changes.
Yeah.
Oh, do they? Okay. So, is there a big? I mean, were there a lot of them that they did change to what it should have been, or
I don't think they may have done a pressing later on where they switched it, but like I said, I think like so many people are just so used to it, so a victim that they just kind of just left it the way it is,
Yeah, because
So I'm kind of curious to see, like, if I can find a pressing that starts a prelude.
yeah,
It'd probably be rare. Who knows? I don't know.
yeah,
So
interesting. My number 6 is going to be. I don't think y'all are going to touch on this one, but I love this album. It's my favorite Beatles solo album, and it's going to be John Lennon's Imagine.
hmm,
Man, this album is just actually my cousin gave me this album, and I've loved it ever since. It starts off with Imagine, Crippled Inside, The Jealous Guy, um, I Don't Want to Be a Soldier, I Don't Want to Die. Such a great track, that one. And then Giving Some Truth, Oh My Love, How Do You Sleep? A big swipe at Paul, big time.
yeah.
And then it ends with a wonderful Oh Yoko, which is, one of my favorite songs by him. But yeah, John Lennon Imagine. I just love this album. And I remember I used to play this all the time, and I haven't played it in a while. It's really good. This was when he was at his best, playing pop rock, you know.
When
And in
you get to
fact,
the L's, you'll play that one.
huh?
When
And
you
in
get to the
fact,
L's, you'll play that one.
yeah. And in fact, Jealous Guy can also be found. The parts of it, the melody can be found on the White Album, on the Esther tapes.
Extra demos.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Found on the Esther demos, and it's under a different name. I forgot the name of it, but the melody is there. It's definitely Jealous Guy with different lyrics. Yeah. So number 5, guys, we cracked the top 5.
Alrighty. Number 5 is one that has already been mentioned on this countdown here, and that is by far the greatest Motley Crue album, and that is Shout at the Devil. Of that era. The 94 album, it's a whole separate thing, but I mean,
Yeah.
by far the most classic Motley Crue album, Shout at the Devil. The amazing pentagram cover with the picture of the band on the back with the pentagram in the background.
Yeah. Then you open it.
Yeah,
awesome.
with the portraits on
Yeah.
the inside.
Yeah.
That
But,
would replace the pentagram. Those 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's all.
yeah, just all the classic tracks are on here. The
Yeah.
title track, Looks That Kill, Red Hot, Bastard, 10 Seconds to Love, Too Young to Fall in Love. So many amazing tracks on here. But yeah, this is, if you're gonna buy one Motley Crue album, it's this one.
Yeah.
Did you mention Red Hot?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, dude, Red Hot's dude.
That's a great song. Man.
Dude, it's like completely different of
with Tommy's
anything.
double bass and all that, man. It's
Yeah.
great, man.
Yeah, dude, it was just such a great heavy metal album. Even though I do love Theater of Pain. I love it. But
I do too, man.
Totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Yeah. Nothing beats Shout though, man. Shout's a cheat,
Yeah,
man.
Shots. God, I can't believe I forgot that one.
All right, so my number 5, I'm going with Alice in Chains Dirt. It's been touched on by you, Andy, I believe.
Yeah.
I love Facelift too. I mean, don't get me wrong, but Dirt like ruled my world in like '92, man. I played the album constantly. I had the CD actually, and it's such a. I mean, when Lane sang those lyrics, man. I mean, he lived it. It was like him foretelling his future. You knew he wasn't long for this world, man. And you felt that. You kind of felt it, dude. Like the way he delivered, and and his delivery and his lyrics, and just the mood of the music, man. It was just dark, but those harmonies of him and Jerry were so haunting and freaking beautiful, man. It's like so unique, that band. I mean,
it really was. It were.
Yeah. So I mean, and out of the big 4 of like that, Seattle scene era, they were my favorite, by far my favorite, of the bands. And they were metal, dude, just metal of the 90s. They just brought metal into a more modern era. They were a metal band, dude. Even though metal was a dirty word in the '90s, they were, man. So yeah, the Dirt Bottles.
And they
That's my
had
number five.
those haunting harmonies. Oh my god, dude! It
Yeah,
just
the harmonies, man, were like, yeah, so good, man.
yeah.
And that just goes to show you the integral part of how Jerry Cantrell was such an integral part of that band as well.
Oh yeah,
It was like
definitely.
really like having two. It was like really having like two co-lead singers, really, the way they did it. So
Yeah, I for my number five, I'm gonna touch on the same era, but I'm gonna go a different route. I'm gonna go Versus by Pearl Jam. This is my I don't know, is it my favorite or is it Vitology? I don't know. But this is a fantastic album, beginning to end. There's a couple of tracks that I can do without, but just two tracks. That's why this is so high. That's why this is so high up. There's only two tracks that are just okay for me, but this is really good. I already had it out. I'm going to be on the with Eric and Edwin on the Rock All Over You, and we reviewed Versus.
oh,
I'm
cool.
not sure when that's going to be released, but I
Oh,
don't
you
think
said
I've
you did it?
talked
So
about it.
you
But
taped it already?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
I taped it last Thursday.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Great. They're a great show to be on, man.
Make a
Yeah,
lot of show.
oh, it's awesome. So we do this one, and it's really good, man, because Eric had never. Well, Eric doesn't care for it, so you get your classic Eric. So,
Yeah. I was on the I was on the episode where we reviewed Journey, the Departure,
Departure and
and
Caddyshack.
uh, and Caddyshack. It was
Yeah,
a great episode, man. It
yeah,
was fun being out with those guys.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It
they're
really
great.
is.
They're great to record with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially when you're trying to convince one of them to like what you know.
Eric is a hard one to crack. He's using the
Yeah, it
negative.
really is, man.
He's using the negative one, and then Eddie is like he'll be like kind of in the middle, the mediator,
Yeah.
and
See, I
you'll be
was the
the
negative one on the episode I was on with them. So
what
What
was the
album
one you
did
did
you
with
do?
them?
Anthrax, State of Euphoria.
Oh, okay. I probably would have been negative on that one
Yeah,
too. That was a letdown. That album was a letdown for me back in the
Especially
day.
after what had come before it.
Yeah, Among the Living and Friends.
Among the Living is my favorite, man. Among the Living is freaking awesome, man.
Yeah,
That album, Among the Living, doesn't stop, dude. It doesn't stop at all. It's just so beginning to end. It's a great album. All right, number four.
already for the third time in this list, Al has completely stolen my thunder by talking about my album right before me, and that is Alice in Chains
oh,
Dirt.
I'm sorry, man.
No, that's funny that it's been this is three times I
we,
think that it's right
yeah, we've
before.
done that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So number four, I mean, yeah, I mean, this is probably my favorite album of the '90s by any band. I mean, just so
it's hard to argue that,
so
man.
classic.
Yeah,
It's I mean, you can't top it. I mean, just front to back, nothing but classic tracks from Alice in
Yeah.
Chains. Dem Bones, Rain When I Die, Down in a Hole, Angry Chair, Wood, Rooster. So
damn
many.
that river.
Damn That River. So many amazing songs. It's just
Yeah.
it's probably, like I said, it's probably my favorite album of the '90s.
Junkhead. Oh my
Yeah.
god, Kid.
Yeah.
So you're like, dude, this dude's fucking in the middle of it, man.
Yeah.
It just was. And it's so ugly and beautiful to hear at the same time, man. All right, Al, what's your number four?
Number four is gonna be Zeppelin 2. I mean, I grew up on this album. My older brother was the biggest Zeppelin fan. I've touched on this before, and he was like one of the first guys to really. He would take me to midnight showing of Song Remains the Same, and I remember seeing Jimmy Page on a big screen, and being like, and I looked at him. I'm like, as a little kid, I'm like, I want to do that, man. He was just so cool and stuff, man. But Zeppelin too, I used to sneak into my brother's room all the time and take the album, put it on, and listen to it and look at the liner notes like he used to always do. And I used to always watch him do that, man. It just put such an impression on me. And it was just so, you know, Zeppelin 2, you'd open it up and it was just, you had the gatefold. I mean, it was just the packaging on Zeppelin albums too was so awesome. And, trying to pick out like who's who on the album cover. It seemed like it was almost a little bit of an homage to like Sergeant Pepper, like kind of their Sergeant Pepper, there you go, with a bunch of people, there you go, with the blimp and their symbols, right? And then the front, with the people on there. It's almost and the band themselves are on there in those people, and it's so cool, dude. A lot of classic tracks. I mean, from being in there, the last one, "Bring It On Home," man, probably my favorite on there. I love that song, man. Yeah, I love that album, man. And it's it's a lot of the radio hits. I mean, pretty much every song on the album's been played on radio. But again, it's like there's a reason for it because they're fucking awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's my number 4.
I cannot believe I missed that one because I love that album so much. My number 4, the reason why it's not higher is because there's one song on here that I do not like. So it's not higher. Because the other 3 albums, I love it word for word, note for note. Paranoid by Black Sabbath is my number 4. I've never liked Planet Caravan. It just doesn't fit for me on this album at all. But there's the back of it. But
one of the worst album covers of all time.
I know, right?
Well, the album was supposed to be called War Pigs.
War Pigs, yeah.
I think that's probably why that album cover is like that. But what the hell does that have to do with Paranoid? Some guy swinging freaking swords,
Looks like somebody at live action role playing.
Yeah,
right.
That's a bad album cover.
It's like today's cosplay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. But the music is. I love that inside cover though, where they're like in the weeds and shit, or like in the grassy, it's cool.
Yeah, like in the hills.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, Paranoid. This is like Joseph was saying about favorite Sabbath albums. This is my favorite Sabbath album, but I would want to say that 4 and Sabotage are going to be right there in 2 and 3, and of course their debut. God, it's so hard to do them. But yeah, my number 4 is going to be Paranoid. This fell from number 1. It was number 1 when I came up with the show. I said, boom, my number 1 is going to be Paranoid. And then as I got more albums, I said, oh, it's falling. So, Paranoid. Top 3, guys. Top 3.
Alrighty, so my top 3 were the easiest choices. I knew exactly what my top 3 was going to be. It was depending on the order, but the top 3 were undisputed for me. And at number 3, only because my top 2 are my favorite albums from these bands, my number 3 is not my favorite album from this band. Ride the Lightning. My favorite is Master of Puppets.
Oh, yeah.
But Ride the Lightning is just that close. But like Andy said earlier, if you'd like to message him for the old mailing address, you could message me for the current mailing address because this is off of the this is out of the box set. So this is the updated remaster. Okay. This is the blackened pressing.
Yeah, what's the address on there? What state?
It's a California address. But
okay, it's Oregon.
Okay then.
Yeah.
This is San Rafael, California.
The pressing you have, Andy, from Oregon? Like the Oregon?
That's what the mailing address for the fan club used to be, Oregon, apparently.
Yeah. I don't know why, but let me.
Yeah, this one is.
It says here 345 West Riverside Drive, Roseburg, Oregon, was the fan club info.
Yeah, this one is San Rafael, California, is where it's sending you to. But no, but like Andy said earlier, just absolutely classic stuff from Metallica on this album. Fight Fire with Fire, the title track, For Whom the Bell Tolls, Fade to Black, probably my favorite Metallica song ever written. Creeping Death, Escape, Trapped Under Ice, Call of Cthulhu. I mean, just 8 absolute classic Metallica tracks on Ride Lightning.
You see, I really don't get that much heavy music, as I'm pretty sure everyone that watches, I don't listen to heavy stuff. But if I do get heavy, it's going to be early Metallica, the heaviest I'll get, and that stuff is just great. Love it. All right, Al, what's your number 3?
Number 3 is Black Sabbath's Paranoid. You guys both touched on it. I happen to love Planet Caravan, actually. To me, it shows the diversity of Sabbath. They could be heavy, but then they show diversity, too. But they're not just all balls out like heavy metal band. They showed like light and shade in their catalog, which I thought was great. And that's why I love that song. I mean, maybe I smoked a lot, too, and I listened to it and was high and, back in the day. But, it's kind of cool, like, kind of like add a little diversity to the album, Hand of Doom, Electric Funeral, probably one of my favorite tracks on there. I used to play that in a band that I was in. I had a lot of fun playing that song, man, with the wah and all that. It was really cool, really fun song to play. And like I said, Hand of Doom, man. Those are the 2 like deep tracks in there, man. I really love, Perry was where Boots get some, airplay. They played that a lot. Obviously, Iron Man's probably the first riff I ever learned on the guitar. I never get tired of War Pigs. I think that's a great, that song today is as relevant today as it ever was, as far as lyrical subject matter and everything. So, Black Sabbath Paranoid, great debut. It's not my favorite Sabbath album, but it's I love the whole Ozzy run, the first 8 albums. I mean, I love them all. I even love Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die. But yeah, I mean, my favorite by them is sometimes it's a toss up between Sabbath Bloody Sabbath and Sabotage. I love those albums a lot. Yeah. Lately, I've been listening to a lot of Volume 4 though. Volume 4 is like no slouch either. That's such a great album. Yeah, they really started experimenting a lot on that album as well. It's really their experimental stage, So, but Paranoid number 3.
But Never Say Die is a really good album too, especially side 2, where they really start to stretch out their music on that one. My number 3, this artist is my second favorite artist of all time, right behind the Beatles. I'm talking about Neil Young after the Gold Rush. I know that that some people might say the second album would be Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere, but that's with Crazy Horse. So they're different. It's a whole different genre, a whole different medium. So I was hearing this album right before we started. Tell Me Why After the Gold Rush, which is the title track, and it's got Southern Man on here, Lonesome Me, Don't Let It Bring You Down. And if you look real closely, this was when he was going through a divorce, and his wife was, at the time, was a little older. So there's an old lady right here walking the other way, and they're going opposite direction, which was a meaning of his divorce, I mean, he didn't have to put her that old, but he did, So Neil Young after the Gold Rush. The inside is pretty cool. It's a pretty cool picture of him in there. Classic picture of Neil, with his acoustic and electric with him. Right. Off of the Reprise. He's been on Reprise, except for that failed misstep when he joined Geffen. But besides that, he's been on Reprise for the longest time. So that's my number 3 is Neil Young. Go for it.
Alrighty. So my number 2 is one that has been mentioned already, and I'm afraid because my number 1 hasn't been mentioned yet, and I'm so afraid somebody's going to steal my thunder before I talk about it. But I'll hold off on that, and I'll talk about my number 2, Diary of a Madman. I mean, by far my favorite Ozzy solo album. This is an absolutely perfect album, front to back. Over the Mountain, Flying High Again, You Can't Kill Rock and Roll, Believer, Little Dolls, Tonight, SATO, and Diary of a Madman. Just Ozzy's voice on this album, Randy's guitar, Bob Daisley's bass, Lee Kerslake's drums. Everything meshed so well. The production is amazing.
Yeah.
Max Norman did an amazing job on this album. I mean, like you said, Andy, this album sounds light years ahead of Blizzard of Oz as far as production goes. Just absolutely classic. I mean, you can't top this album as far as Ozzy solo goes. I mean, there's a couple Black Sabbath albums I'll put ahead of this,
Oh yeah.
but this isn't far behind some of my favorite Black Sabbath albums.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think when it comes to solo Ozzy, I put mainly his 6-pack of Sabbath above it. But that's really good though. That's a really good album. You know what? Maybe a couple of them. Yeah. Number 2, Al.
Well, my number 2. I'm not going to try to steal Joe's thunder here, but no, but this one's been mentioned before. This is actually my favorite album by them, and it's by Metallica. It's Ride the Lightning. This is the album that I discovered them. Again, my older brother, his friend came over. They used to play Dungeons and Dragons, and when his friend came over, his friend had long hair. He was like, into hard rock and metal and stuff. He bought over this album by Metallica, Ride the Lightning. This would have been in late '85 when he bought it over, or summer of '85, because they weren't in school, so they were playing Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. And I'd watch him. I'd play with them once in a while and stuff. And his friend brought over Ride the Lightning. He put it on. I'm like, dude, what is this, man? I've never heard anything like this before in my life. So fast, so heavy, and just it's just so wicked, man. And I had to know like who it was. And he was like, yeah, it's Metallica. And I looked at the album cover and everything. And I was just blown away by it. I didn't really quite understand it at first. I was just more into traditional heavy metal, but it definitely intrigued me. And it was the first thing I ever heard by Metallica. So I went out and got that album probably like early '86 then when I saved up for it and stuff like that. So I got that before Puppets came out. So that's the first album by Metallica I ever got, and it's still my favorite to this day. So number 2 will be Ride the Lightning. And Ride the Lane is the title track, one of my favorite Metallica songs. Love that song.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good track.
And I got to see the only time that they ever played that whole album live, and they played it here. They played it here in Atlantic City, New Jersey. They played the whole Ride the Lightning album. They played it in reverse though, so they started with Call of Cthulhu and worked their way backwards through the album. But they came to that song, Escape, the song that James hates, and I believe that's the only time they ever played it live. That's it. That's the one time they play that song on, and I got to witness it. And I actually love that song. Actually, I love Escape. I think it's a great song. The band feels like they were pressured, I think, into writing something a bit kind of commercial for them, I guess. But I don't hear that really. I just don't hear it. I think it's just a great anthem, really, anthemic type song. When you're young and you really relate to the lyrics. So yeah, it's my number 2 is Ride the Lightning.
Well, I'm very curious to see what Joseph's number 1 is, and I don't think I have it on my list. So, my number 2, this album, when this came out, this was widely panned. The worst album of the 90s is what it was called. And then 2 decades later, it was hailed as one of the best albums of the 90s. When this came out, I absolutely loved it. I still do. This album has a lot of special meaning to me. A lot of special meaning. I love it word for word, note for note, song by song. Pinkerton by Weezer.
Oh, Pinkerton.
Fantastic album, man. This is so good. Remember, I said the other day that I don't really buy deluxes or nothing like this. I do have the CD deluxe to this, which I don't like because they play the same track over and over, and I didn't like it. But this has "Tired of Sex," "Get You," "Why Bother," "Across the Sea," "Flip It," "You Get the Good Life," or "Scorcho." Again, a lot of these songs were not hit songs at all. I mean, they were just panned, but it's a great album. It's a great album.
That's the same. It's a same. It's almost the same story as like Paul's Boutique. When it was
Yeah,
released, it was considered a flop. You know, now it's widely considered as a classic. You know,
yeah,
for Weezer, and
it's
yeah, no,
great.
I agree. You know,
I love it. This kind of
everybody was expecting another Blue album. You
yeah,
know,
and in fact, this is kind of a
so
concept album, kind of loosely based on Madame Butterfly, which I don't know what the hell that is, but they talk about it all the time. But I don't see it. I just love this album. So I mean, it's number two, so that's got to be big for me. All right, guys, here we are, numero uno.
I'm very I'm very curious at Joe's pick here.
I'm interested to know what Al thinks my number one is. I wonder. I wonder if the album cover looks at all like that.
Oh no, I was thinking of something different.
What did
But
you think my number one was?
well, it's gonna be my number one actually,
Okay,
so I'm not gonna
okay,
reveal it right now.
sounds good. So my number one, Van Halen 2. Easily my number one. I mean, this is probably my favorite Van Halen album, front to back. A lot of people give a little bit of flack for the way that they organize the tracks. Start out with "You're No Good." I think it's a great way to ease into the album. "You're No Good," "Dance the Night Away," "Somebody Get Me a Doctor," "Bottoms Up," "Out of Love Again," then "Flip It Over," "Light Up the Sky," "Spanish Fly," DOA, "Beautiful Girls." I mean, sorry, "Women in Love," "Beautiful Girls." I mean, just absolutely classic. Van Halen
Yeah,
at the peak of their powers. I don't think you can top this album. It's one of my, especially in the summertime, to put this album on and just sit
that's a
out
great song. Yeah,
grilling, have a couple drinks. What an album to just relax to. It's a perfect summertime album. One of my all-time favorite albums, Van Halen 2.
Look at that
and in a
iconic.
half hour, and in a half
And in
hour,
a
it's
half
over.
hour. Yeah.
But
Alrighty,
it
now I'm
never feels,
interested.
but it never feels like quick. You know, it feels like
No.
you know,
You
it's
feel like you
that's
got what you needed out of it. It doesn't feel like it's over too quickly, but it leaves you wanting more, but you feel satisfied.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
But
No,
that's like amazing. The side
Yeah.
two is just
shit.
wow.
Yeah.
That's another one where like same with Diary of a Madman. I mean, it's like how the fuck can I not have that on my list? You know, it's just I because it's not my favorite of Van Halen. I love the album, you know, but that's not my favorite Van Halen album. That's probably why I left it off the list. But I'm just stupid. I should have it on the list anyway. You know. Um, well, my number one, as you all know me, who my favorite band is. You know, it's one of you see that right there. Fly Night by Rush. When there you go. When Neil came into the band, his debut with the band took him to a whole other level. I love the debut album by Rush too, but this one just took him to the next level where they just needed to go, where they wanted to go. Getting out, wanted to be more progressive, and Neil was the last fitting piece in that puzzle, and just phenomenal. I mean, Anthem, the way it opens up is just so hard hitting, and you know, Fly by Night, the title track is great. By Sworn to Snow Dog, fucking epic. You know, in the end, you know, then you know you have your it's not widely regarded, but like you know, it's them in their Tolkien phase. You know, like you know, Rivendell. You listen to the lyrics for that, it's like reading a Tolkien novel. You know, Lord of the Rings. You know what I mean? But it's a nice mellow track. Um, Making Memories, cool acoustic track. Um, yeah, just I love that album, man. I mean, it's not my favorite Rush album, but it is the stepping stone where Neil came in, and it's an important album, and because introducing the world to him, I mean, he just took that drumming and lyrics to a whole other level. So that's my number one. Everybody knows me. I'm a Rush head. So, but damn, I need to put that Van Halen 2 on the fucking list. But I'm glad
Yeah.
you put it on, Joe.
I'm glad you're talking
killer.
about Fly By Night as well, because that was one that it absolutely killed me to leave Fly By Night off my list. That was like number 21.
Yeah.
And I love that album cover.
Yeah.
I mean, the yellow eyes are just amazing, dude. And it's something so simple, but it sticks out so much. It's a really good album.
And that was before Hugh Syme. That was before. That was before Hugh Syme became their artist. Like they did album covers. He wouldn't come in until Caress of Steel. Yeah, but that album cover is awesome. My daughter always like when I pull that album. She loves the album cover of that. She's like, "Oh, I love that owl and everything."
It wraps around as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
What's
I
that?
got the album over there, but I've always preferred '70s Rush. So if I prefer '70s Rush, Fly By Night's one of my favorites by them, of course. It's when Neil Peart came in. It's a whole departure from their first album. And like Al said, the first album is really good. It's a really good rock and roll album. But man, they sure did change course for the sophomore album of Fly By Night. This one here is.
And I was sipping on the. I was sipping on the Rush Golden Ale tonight. Give it a little plug.
Yeah, I don't find those down here at all. What I was able to find was the Iron Maiden beer down here.
It's not that great though.
Huh?
The Maiden beer ain't that great, but it's all right.
This album here, this started my whole fascination with this artist. It's from 1963. This sophomore album. I bought it, and I just completely fell in love with it. I've had so many great memories with this album. Word for word, note for note, it's a perfect album. Album cover is just breathless. I'm talking about the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan. That is my number one sophomore album.
Wow.
It's
Eddie Kennesaw will
Yeah, I know. I messaged him before this because he was going to be on here. I had asked him to be on here with us tonight, but a storm's hitting the Tampa area, so he wasn't too sure if he was going to be able to make it. But man, the tracks are here blowing in the wind, and then he does a debut. He does "Girl from the North Country," and he does it again later on another album with Johnny Cash, but it's not the same. It's better by himself. Masters of War on here can be one of the templates for War Pigs because it's the same message, exactly the same message, just done acoustically. My Heart Rain's Gonna Fall. You flip it, you get Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. Oxford Town, talking World War III blues. So yeah, my number one sophomore album is going to be Bob Dylan's Freewheelin' Bob Dylan. When I bought this, of course I knew who Bob Dylan was, but I didn't have anything by him. And then after I heard this, I had to get everything else, which I do quite a bit. But Bob Dylan is my number one sophomore album. So my number one was Bob Dylan, and Joe's was the Great Van Halen with Van Halen 2, and then Al had his Rush being Fly By Night, which is a great album just as well. So thank you so much for joining me next week. Next week, I picked a topic, and now I'm regretting that topic because I'm having a hard time finding 10 songs. But it's gonna be top 10 songs with a car in the title, the word car or a car or a car in the title. I thought that I would do that one since it's Labor Day. It's the end of summer. People are going back to school, and people traveled a lot in the summertime. So It's going to be the top 10 songs that have a car in the title. So if y'all want to be in that,
okay.
hit me up and let me know. I'd be more than
Okay.
happy to have y'all on. I'll talk to y'all more about it. And thank you everybody for watching. There was quite a bit of comments tonight, but I got to them late. But they were mainly Mark and Jerry and Scribble. So I want to tell them hello and thank you for watching. And tomorrow I'll be on the BS sessions making our top 11, what's the word, yacht rock songs. And I had a hard time.
There's a lot of good ones. There's a lot of good
ones, but there's some that I consider soft rock, pop rock, but not quite yacht rock. So I had a whole big division of what was what. So I'll probably be on there tomorrow and say that's not yacht rock. That's not yacht rock. So I want to thank y'all for being on here. Thank you so much, Joseph. Thanks for being a part of it. You were great as I expected you to be. So thank you so much for your expertise and for your love of the music we talk about. I think Al lost contact with us. Hopefully he'll pop back up so we can tell him goodbye. And you guys have a great Labor Day weekend. Enjoy it. We work hard for that extra day.
I'm working on Labor Day.
Are you?
Yeah.
All right. Do you, about how many people? I mean, of course, I know how important your job is over there at the. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Oh my God! And it's so important in the Civil War and Abraham Lincoln. Tell me, please.
Gettysburg.
The Gettysburg, jeez. So y'all will probably draw a big crowd during the Labor Day weekend. Huh?
Oh yeah. We'll probably be pretty busy this weekend.
Yeah. So are you a guide there?
So I'm at one of the museums, not like the big main museum.
Right.
One of like the second biggest museum. I'm one of the people. We kind of do everything. We run like the desk and everything. We do tours and that kind of stuff. So it's a little bit of everything.
That's very, very interesting. So I don't mean to keep you because I know that you need to go back. But how did you land a job like that? Are you like a Civil War buff or?
Yeah, I mean, just growing up in this area my entire life, kind of being around it all. I mean, history is my big thing. That's what I got my college degree, and I have a degree in history.
Yeah.
And I've always been big into Civil War and World War II. Have always been my two big historical periods.
Right.
And living in this area, I was really lucky to be able to get this job at the battlefield here and being able to do this stuff. It's awesome. I mean, it's great to be able to be a part of that.
Yeah, because I can just imagine how hard it is to get into something like that.
Yeah, there's not a lot of availability to be able to get into jobs in places like that. And it's awesome. It really is.
All right. Well, good for you, and the best of luck to you at work. And I will see you soon. Let me know if you want to get on anything or if you got a topic that you want to throw out there, and we can work it in.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on as always.
And thank you for being on. And Al, I guess he's not able to get on, but thanks a lot, Al. I know that you had called in a couple of days ago, but then you called back today and said you want to be on. So thank you for being on. And thanks a lot, Joan. Thanks a lot, Al. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And I will talk to you later. Thank you, man. Take care.
See ya.